Monitoring things on social media, and all you have to do is type in FLL and you're going to see a ton of tweets of people who obviously are at the airport right now, all of them talking about these shots fired. Now, what we can't confirm at this point is how many people were shot, how many victims, if any of the extent of those injuries as well. That's what we're working to confirm right now. Obviously, though, if you're just looking through Twitter, you just see tweet after tweet of people saying there's a shooting at the airport, people saying my sister is at the airport, I hope everything is okay. Again, what we do know, like you've mentioned, Terminal 2 baggage claim, and Michael, you mentioned how you've been to this airport. I actually was flying out of this airport last Friday, and was there Monday, so you're right. The baggage claim area is sort of the bottom end of the airport where anyone can walk in. That's usually where you go to grab your bag, but that's where you're waiting for people to pick you up so you can head home. And you're right, there's no metal detectors. Of course, there's security, as there is at every airport, walking around, but if someone was carrying a weapon, you could easily just sort of walk in there, because it's sort of an area where anyone can come in, your family's coming in to greet you, and as you can imagine, terrifying moments for people there. Now, again, we're being told that this happened at baggage claim Terminal 2, but as you saw from those live pictures a bit ago, we did see a large crowd of people that either were on the plane or about to get on the plane, but they're all sort of huddled around, and it looks like they're by a Delta plane. So this is near the Delta terminal, which I know you mentioned Air Canada as well. I believe they're in the same terminal, if I remember correctly. We do see a large crowd of people there. Maybe they're getting ready to board when these shots were fired and they weren't able to board. So a situation we're obviously still monitoring, but Michael and Eric, as you saw and as you can see, it almost looks like business as usual at the airport, because we're seeing cars just driving in and out. I saw a few people being dropped off, obviously heading to their flight, to catch their flights. So a situation we're monitoring, and it seems to be a pretty serious situation as well.
A very serious situation. What is not obviously business as normal are a lot of passengers. It looks like dozens and dozens of passengers who have been taken off planes that were, and instead of going across the bridge into the main part of the airport, they have been brought down to the tarmac. So I don't know what exactly that means, but that is certainly a deviation from standard practice, not only at FLL, but at any airport.
Michael, what will we learn here, do you think, about the sort of response that we are seeing and will continue to see?
Well, in my experience, as somebody who has flown in and out of that airport for years, there is a heavy police presence. BSO has got deputies stationed in every one of those terminals. I think it strikes me as a very secure place. But once again, as you and I have said, and Janice has said, Eric, somebody can park, walk in to a baggage claim area without going through a metal detector. So it is the least protected area of that airport. Of course, why somebody would want to start shooting in that area, Lord only knows. We will eventually find out, but we are really hunting hard for all the solid information we can find about the incident at Fort Lauderdale Airport.
And in that way, we ask you bear with us here, as we want to make sure that we are telling you the most accurate, most truthful information about what is happening. We're watching social media channels, and as you know, those things can sometimes fluctuate in terms of their accuracy. We're seeing some images coming in from what people are posting to social media. We're going to work to make sure we vet those images for you as we take a closer look at what appears to be a significant police response to this multiple shooting scene at the airport.
Janice, let me ask you, as Eric says, we can't rely solely on tweets or social media, but in reviewing, I don't have access right now to my Twitter account, but if you look through the tweets that are coming out from FLL, from passengers and other people who are there, what is the sense you're getting? What are people saying?
Well, yes, Michael, we're talking about those tweets that are coming in, and like I mentioned, if you just go to the search bar and you type in FLL, that's where you're going to get so many tweets, obviously from passengers, but then we're also getting tweets from, for example, from former White House press secretary. As you can see from the screen, this is Ari Fleischer. He is tweeting here. Now, this obviously happened a bit ago where he says, I'm at the airport now. I'm at Fort Lauderdale Airport. Shots have been fired. Everyone is running. And then he also sent this tweet out saying the police said that there's one shooter and 5 victims. Of course, we can't confirm that there were exactly 5 victims. There may be more, there may be less, and we don't know the extent of their injuries either. And then he sent this tweet out not too long ago saying all seems to be calm now, but the police are not letting anyone out of the airport, at least not in the area where I am. Now, of course, we don't know what area Ari is at. He hasn't tweeted which area he is at, but we are assuming that it must be Terminal 2 because that's where we are getting the reports that this incident happened. Terminal 2 baggage claim. The airport also sent a tweet out as well, and this tweet very vague, like you mentioned, Michael. All they're saying is that there's an ongoing incident in Terminal 2 baggage claim, and then of course telling media that they will have availability at a staging area. And right now we're looking at those live pictures where we can see fire rescue there. Multiple units are on the scene right now. We obviously see a huge crowd of people on the tarmac. It looks like they were either on a plane or about to board a plane when they were either told to get off the plane or they didn't even make it on. We don't really know. But I'm trying to figure out exactly what happened there because the reports we're getting is that this happened in Terminal 2 baggage claim. So trying to see the correlation between that. Maybe they didn't want any flights taking off at this point. We are getting some information here that flights are being allowed to take off and land, and that is per air traffic control and flight radar. So flights are being allowed to take off and land per air traffic control and the flight radar. But of course, that area of Terminal 2, it seems to be an area that they're containing at the moment. Probably don't want anyone. Okay, well, I'm just being told now from my producers that we are confirming that 9 people were hurt. So we know 9 people are hurt in what appears to be a shooting at the airport. It seems like this incident happened in the baggage claim area of Terminal 2, and that seems to be where it is contained at least. So working to get more information. As we're looking at these live pictures, we see police zooming by, entering the airport. Doesn't seem like they're stopping other people from entering the airport, though. We know that flights are being allowed to take off and land. At that point, though, if they're landing there, we don't know if they're being allowed off the plane and into the terminal. And now we're looking and we do see a long line of people. It looks like they're not being able to enter the airport at this time because we did see from a quick image there, if you saw, it looked like a line of cars that normally would enter in the arrivals area. It looks like they're not being allowed. At least at that moment, we did see some police cruisers zooming on by. And this image, an image that we keep looking at, and it's a group of people, a large group of people with their luggage. It looks like they were about to board a plane or maybe had to get off the plane. And obviously we see a very heavy police presence here. So such an active scene right now. And we are, again, we can confirm the 9 people are hurt after this shooting. As far as the extent of their injuries, we don't know. We don't know if these were minor injuries, if these were serious injuries. We don't know if anyone was transported yet to the hospital, but what a scary situation. I mean, Michael, Eric, you can only imagine being at the airport at baggage claim, getting ready to grab your luggage, maybe head out, get a taxi or an Uber, wait for someone to pick you up, and then all of a sudden these shots fired in an area, like you mentioned, Michael, a very vulnerable area of the airport because really no metal detectors. There may be security walking around, but you can walk in with a weapon undetected.
Well, the police response clearly now has been massive, and this is, as far as we can tell, the Broward Sheriff's Office. They run both the police, the Broward Sheriffs, and the Fire Rescue Department, and there is a very, very large response there to the right. You see an ambulance from Fire Rescue. We have not yet, however, Eric, we have not yet seen anybody loaded into one of those ambulances, which strikes me as a little unusual if there have been 9 victims. Our Jeff Weinseer is at Fort Lauderdale Airport right now. He just arrived. Jeff, where are you and what can you tell us? Okay, well, apparently Jeff Weinseer cannot hear me quite yet, but we will hear shortly from Jeff. And just to, this is Sky 10, which is above the scene. That is the information that we are getting is all visual at this point, but now Jeff Weinseer is ready. Jeff,
Michael,
good afternoon. Where are you and what do you see?
Michael, can you hear me first off?
I can.
Before we
Yes,
go?
we can.
Okay, we are just arriving inside the garage right across from Terminal 2. The police presence for the Broward Sheriff's Office is off the charts unreal. The entire airport entryway shut down. There are BSO vehicles blocking every single entrance, directing people through the garage and out the airport. We have several rescue units from Davie, from Fort Lauderdale Fire Rescue, that are staging on Perimeter Road in case extra fire rescue units are needed on the scene here. We have been told that multiple people have been shot. There is a media staging area which we are headed to in the baggage area of Terminal 2. BSO deputies, the Broward Sheriff's Office has jurisdiction over the airport. They have an entire force that's dedicated to the airport. We do not know what the circumstances are, but we can tell you that there is a command for fire rescue that has been calling originally for rescues from Fort Lauderdale, from Davie. Rescues from all over this immediate area were brought into the airport to transport patients. We do know that Broward Health was put on standby. We do know that I had heard at least 3 patients transported to Broward Health. And there are, they have them coded. It's yellow, red, and black. Yellow is a patient that is being triaged. Red is a patient that is serious, and black is a patient that may be deceased. And they are calling those. What they're doing is they're going through the terminals and they're saying we have 3 yellows, we have 5 blacks, they're going through and they're assessing the situation. The airport, obviously, a very, very big place. There are people all over the airport in all different functions, and so when you have a situation like this, you have to assess the situation. We did hear that Broward Sheriff's Fire Rescue Command was going through the airport looking for, quote, additional patients. But that is what we've seen as we have pulled in. We are getting our gear together. We are physically going into the airport right now, but we are in Terminal 2 garage. We have been given access because we are the media to park into the garage, but everybody else coming into the airport has been told to go through the garage and exit the airport as the I'm assuming that the airport is shut down. We did see actually a plane come in for landing on the new runway as we were coming in off of Griffin Road. But we are walking into the terminal now, and as soon as we get in there, we'll let you know what we see. But from what we saw driving in is that BSO has the entire front of the airport shut down. Access to the general public is shut down right now.
All right, Jeff Wines here live, just arriving at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. Jeff, go get more information, and I know you'll check in with us as soon as you get the very latest. You're just joining us. We're seeing these now stunning images coming out of Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. This is some video that we have been given permission to use from Instagram, and as you can see in the background, and this is a little bit grisly, it appears to be a victim bleeding behind those fire rescuers there in the background. As you can see, they're loading that stretcher down onto the ground, preparing to treat that gentleman. We're going to work on that video again, bring you the very latest of what you need to see. Again, this information continues to be fluid as it comes into the Local 10 newsroom, and now the airport, we are seeing signs, Michael, that they are taking the measures to slow things down quite significantly.
They are indeed, and we also just saw from Sky 10 buses have been brought out onto the tarmac, and it appears some of the passengers who had been taken off the waiting planes are being loaded onto those buses. In the meantime, it appears to be a few hundred passengers who have been taken off planes and are just waiting on the tarmac beneath the planes, waiting to be told where to go and what they are going to do. They do not seem to be in any danger, which is a good thing, but on the other hand, it is a very fluid situation at the airport, and a tragic one too. 9 people shot in Terminal 2 at Fort Lauderdale Airport.
And Michael, Eric, if I can interrupt you for just one moment, because right now some of our sources are telling us that suspected shooter is in custody right now. From what our sources are telling us, it seems to have just been one person. Again, that suspected shooter, from what our sources are telling us, is now in custody. And we're going back to kind of our social media here as I'm monitoring our Twitter, we're monitoring Instagram, and that's actually what a few of the passengers have been posting on Twitter, is that that shooter has been caught. One person, Stephanie Auclair, was tweeting that that they're now safe. The shooter was caught, and she does have a photo there with the situation going on. But again, our sources telling us that the suspected shooter is in custody at this time. But of course, we've got a lot of questions here, wondering exactly what happened. Again, we know this happened in Terminal 2 baggage claim. 9 people hurt, and we heard Jeff mention that some were transported, he said, to Broward Health, and that's information that we're working on getting confirmed as well. And really the big question is the extent of these injuries, exactly how badly were these people hurt, because this could have been a very scary situation, you can only imagine. So again, we do know at this point from our sources that the shooter has been caught, and multiple news outlets are coming on, and they're bringing information out there. We want to wait till we get this confirmed, though, because we do have multiple news outlets talking about possible fatalities. We don't want to say that yet. We want to get it confirmed and make sure that that is, in fact, what is happening. But we do know 9 people shot. Now, right now, we're looking at some pretty gruesome images here. It looks like they're being treated at this point, but we're working to get a lot more information. Again, 9 people hurt after a shooting at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. We working to get a lot of information confirmed from police. We want to wait till police say, yes, in fact, this is how many people are hurt. We want to know the extent of their injuries, if there were any fatalities. That is information we are working to get. But right now we're looking at images of a very large crowd of people here with their luggage. It looks like they were either about to board a plane, maybe didn't get a chance to board the plane. And it looks like we see a stretcher there. We see fire rescue on the scene there with a stretcher. So again, working to get so much information. Jeff Weinzier's on the ground working to get more info, and of course our news desk is working as well to get the latest information. But we do know 9 people are hurt. I know a lot of you probably at home right now are concerned. You probably had people heading to the airport, maybe were at Terminal 2, or maybe their plane landed not too long ago and they may have been at baggage claim. We can only imagine your concern, and that's why we're working diligently to make sure we get all this information to you as quickly as possible. We want to make sure we're correct about everything we give to you. So right now we are saying 9 people hurt after the shooting. We do know, I believe Jeff had said 3 people taken to Broward Health. Don't know the extent of those injuries yet. Of course, Michael and Eric, I'm going to keep monitoring everything here. I'm going to work with the news desk to continue getting information that we can confirm on air.
Okay, Janice, thank you. Terminal 2 at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport, primarily serving Air Canada as well as Delta Airlines. So that's something for you to keep in mind if you're tuning in and watching right now and saying, is my loved one impacted by what I'm seeing right now on our screen? Michael, the report that the suspected shooter has been caught is a significant development because it changes the scope of what is happening there. It's not as much of a hunt for a shooter mission as it is trying to assess just how many people have been hurt and get to them as quickly as possible.
Oh, it is a very significant development to have the shooter reportedly in custody. We don't know if he put up a fight. We don't know if he was injured or if a sheriff's deputy or other police officer was injured in taking him into custody. But it's very good news because the threat that previously existed before he was apprehended, I mean, here you've got a huge major institution locked down because of a shooting in one of the several terminals where we just saw a plane taking off. And now we obviously see a lot of these passengers are now being directed back into the terminal, it appears. And that, I would say, that's probably a good sign, too.
Another clear indicator that whatever perceived threat existed inside of that building doesn't appear to be at the forefront of the minds of the authorities who are there if they're bringing people back to the inside there. Mike, you said we're hearing this happen in the baggage area of Terminal 2. We talk so much about security, and if you've ever been to this airport, you know there is a significant amount of security there, but that is one area where you don't have to be screened. You go and you picked up loved ones, you can go and stand there and wait. You don't need a particular reason to be there, and that certainly adds to the challenge. And again, we don't know the details of what happened here, but just the idea that there's not a whole lot that's going to stop a person from having a weapon in that area.
I seem to recall that in the last year or so, there was also some kind of an incident at Los Angeles International in a baggage area. I've got a feeling that if this incident is as dramatic and as serious as we think it is, that I think airports here and around the country may rethink their security provisions and do something to prevent people from just walking in at will into a baggage area at an airport.
Well, Michael, you said it there, because that's just sort of the times we live in. You know, we're in this sort of time where anything can happen at any given moment. Obviously, I was a bit too young, but I remember my parents talking about when they were able to go to the airport and board a flight without really having to go through security. You're able to wait for your loved ones right at the gate, if you will. And then obviously 9/11 changed everything, and now we have this insecurity, and we have TSA, and there's a reason why we have that. But it looks like baggage claim, an area that, like Eric mentioned, it's where you're picking up your bags, where you're picking up your loved ones, an area that is not necessarily not secure, because there is security, there's always security, but no metal detectors. You could easily walk in and have a weapon, and that weapon can go undetected. Now, of course, really the question at this point is, what really led up to the shooting? What were the circumstances? We do know, our sources saying that the suspected shooter is in custody. We talked about how we don't know if there was a sort of fight, if there was a struggle, but we do know that that suspected shooter has been brought into custody. And of course, what exactly caused this to happen? What was he triggered by something? Was he maybe trying to target one person? Was this just a random event? And those are the sort of questions that will get answered in the coming days, of course. But right now, the situation here is that 9 people hurt in the shooting. We can only imagine what it's like for you at home to be listening in right now as you have loved ones either coming to the airport or leaving the airport, just wondering if they were in Terminal 2, if they were in baggage claim at this point. So we are working very hard to get all this information as quickly as we can. We do know, again, 9 people hurt, and that suspected shooter is in custody. So that's some silver lining, that at least the shooter's in custody and at least the situation is under control. And now we go to those people who have been hurt by this, trying to assess their injuries, and we're trying to figure out just how serious those injuries are.
The one thing I think that we can say, Eric and Janice, with some certainty, is that whoever this shooter is did not get off a plane. It was somebody who arrived at the airport and walked into the baggage claim area in the Terminal 2 area, because there's just no way somebody can get on a flight these days carrying a weapon of any kind.
And this will certainly weigh into the conversation that now will bring itself up again. Mikey, you had said, will we take a different look at the ability to walk into an airport without any sort of security setup? And, you know, it's one of those difficult and tricky conversations to have, because safety is of the utmost importance to everybody involved, but so is the freedom to be able to go where you want to go. And so, again, we need to wait for some of the key details on exactly what happened here. But as you can see, a mobile command center now being wheeled into the airport here, riding into the airport here, as the significance of the response continues to grow. We have seen much more SWAT-style vehicles there parked at the entranceways where cars come in and out of Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. And as the details continue to come in, we're going to continue to show these live pictures from Sky 10.
And Eric, Michael, sorry to interrupt you again. I'm just getting this information from our news desk, so bear with me. But right now, the Broward County mayor is saying that this was a lone shooter at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. I know there were some questions about if the shooter acted alone, but according to the Broward County mayor, this was a lone shooter, so it seems like one person responsible for this, and the suspected shooter, again, is in custody. We talked about that we don't know if there was any sort of struggle, if he went in willingly. We don't really know the circumstances of how exactly everything went down, but again, a lone shooter, that lone shooter now in custody.
The Broward County Mayor is Marty Carr, K-I-A-R, a former state legislator. And I expect, Eric, that we are going to hear from him, probably Sheriff Scott Israel, in a bit. I mean, they are now just getting this situation under control. It would really be unreasonable to think that we would have heard already from a police spokesman or a spokeswoman, but I think that's not far off. I think we're going to get some solid information, because right now, just so you would at home understand, we are being as conservative as we can. We're not going to report anything that's not nailed down. We are basically observing what you are observing and then working the phones to get our information, and we believe it is solid information. We just don't know how badly these people were wounded. We don't know. Well, Jeff Weinzer did say 3 have been taken to Broward Health for treatment. We don't know about the other 6.
Another thing Jeff mentioned, if you're just joining us here as we continue to wait for our crews to get us the very latest details as they head to the airport, is that in the process of triage, when fire rescue and paramedics go to these scenes, they make key determinations on who is injured and then place them in a yellow, orange, or black category, yellow being the least severe of the injured, orange the next level of severity, and black is someone who they believe may not make it or has already died. And so through our reporting, if you hear yellow, orange, or black, that's exactly what that means. Janice, go ahead.
Eric and Michael, I want to interrupt you very quickly here because this was a tweet that was sent out 2 minutes ago from Broward Sheriff, and I'm reading this verbatim. It says, confirmed shooting at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport with multiple people dead, one subject in custody. Again, this tweet just posted 2 minutes ago. This is from the official account of Broward Sheriff's Office. Again, I'm reading this verbatim. Confirmed shooting at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport with multiple people dead, one subject in custody. So this is a very serious situation, Michael and Eric, as we just got that confirmation of multiple people dead. We did say earlier 9 people hurt. That number could go up. Working to get a lot more information. But again, this from the official Twitter account from the Broward Sheriff's Office confirming multiple people dead from the shooting.
All right, Janice Fernandez, thank you for that update. Let's check in now. We have Bob Norman, who is at Broward General. Bob, what are you learning there?
Well, we are here at the Emergency Trauma Center. We've seen 6 patients come in so far, and I can tell you the first 4 that came in appeared to be unconscious. We have no idea the extent of the injuries, but they were not moving. And the following 2 appeared to be conscious and not seriously injured. Perhaps grazed. We have no idea exactly what those injuries are. And we were just told moments ago by a fire official that that's it. There will be no more transports here. So we may have seen the extent of those injured and transported. Obviously, we don't know how many people remain at the airport or any of the casualty figures that may be coming in.
All right, Bob Norman at Broward General. Bob, keep us informed about what you are seeing there. Eric, I've got to say, multiple fatalities at Fort Lauderdale International. This is really a shocking and tragic story. I can't remember any incident at a public facility, a major institution like this, where so many people have been shot and killed. We don't exactly know how many, but 1 is too many.
There are 2 aspects of this. We continue to look for how many people are wounded, how many people have died. Now we also turn our attention to exactly what happened here and the investigation that is happening right now inside that building. Let's bring in Stephen Lloyd. He is a former FAA investigator. Stephen, are you with us?
I'm here. Good afternoon.
All right, Stephen, walk us through what's happening right now inside the airport.
Well, I can't tell you exactly what a TSA and law enforcement are doing other than an active investigation. Obviously a terrible and a serious situation. I can speak to at least the safety part of it and the air traffic part of it. Once this thing occurred, the local folks, the operational folks at the airport and security folks obviously took control. And that determined what air traffic move would be next, whether to divert flights or just close keep airplanes from coming in and out of Fort Lauderdale altogether to keep the folks in the air and on the ground safe. And obviously you have a lot of folks exiting the terminal area, which is another issue altogether. And there has to be a way to provide safety for those folks because you've got airplanes and ground equipment moving around. But it looks like they've got that under control. But inside the terminal, it's law enforcement. There's airport security, airport law enforcement, and TSA there to provide security for those passengers and those folks coming in and out of the airport.
Yeah, Stephen, it's Michael Putney. I don't think I can ever recall an incident at either MIA or Fort Lauderdale Airport where I have seen so many passengers deplaned and held on the tarmac. I mean, this is really quite an extraordinary situation, isn't it?
Yes, it is. You usually don't see that. When I first saw the breaking news, I was, concerned that was something happening in the security area. But obviously, these people hopefully were marshaled out and didn't just run out there by themselves. But we'll find that out in the investigation. as it takes place. But a lot of folks obviously running out on the tarmac. It's a pretty precarious situation when you think about all the movement going on in the airport. But it looks like they've got it under control.
Stephen, for investigators who are there, what are they looking for right now?
Well, I can't speak to the law enforcement. I wasn't a law enforcement investigator. My expertise was in aviation safety. But you can bet that, like any other investigation, they've got an area cordoned off. They're talking to multiple witnesses and trying to find out as much information as they can. Obviously, you have a lot of folks there and between those terminals coming in and out of the airport. I'm not sure exactly, where this occurred, but it sounds like around baggage claim or an area where there's there's not any TSA security, but there may have been law enforcement folks. I see them when I drop my wife off at the airport all the time around those doors as you go in and out. So hopefully they've got some eyewitnesses, and obviously they did a good job putting this person in custody.
Right. Stephen, let me ask you, as far as we know, this incident happened, looking at Ari Fleischer's tweet, his first tweet was at 12:57 p.m. So presumably this happened in the vicinity, let's say, of 12:50 this afternoon, Friday afternoon, January, tourists coming in, people coming down for cruises, people leaving from cruises. I mean, this is just one of the busiest times of the year. Couldn't happen at a worse. I mean, no time is good, but this happened at really just a terrible time.
Oh, it certainly is. And having been there quite a bit over the last couple of months, going in and out of the airport terminal area, it's been quite busy. And there's a lot of folks, in the taxi area and baggage claim and the arrival area waiting to pick people up all the time, especially at this airport.
And Steve, before we ask you another question, we do have another update. This coming from Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. They sent out a tweet saying all services are temporarily suspended at FLL. Please contact your air carrier about your flight information. So if you're watching right now, all services at the airport, they are suspended. Nothing is happening right now at the airport. You need to contact whoever you are flying with today or in the near future to find out what's next. Again, Stephen Lloyd, former FAA investigator, joining us as we continue to bring you this breaking news. Multiple people shot, several dead at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. The shooting happening just before 1 o'clock this afternoon. We have Local 10 news crews at the scene. Michael Putney here on set with me, as well as Janice Fernandez. As we watch for the very latest updates, we understand that the suspected shooter, is in custody. And now all operations at the airport are shut down as a response there, Michael, continues to be significant. And we see people standing outside and waiting. Just an extraordinary scene.
The authorities, police, fire, rescue, I think have done a very good job of responding so quickly to get there. Of course, there was a large police presence at the airport in the first place, but there certainly have been backed up, as you said a minute ago, Eric, by SWAT teams and by other officers. We've seen canine officers, and now we see some of these passengers walking up the ramp again. Don't know if they're walking up the ramp to take the air bridge into the terminal or to get on that plane. But I suspect, Stephen, as I'm looking at this, if the airport is shut down, they're not being put on a plane to sit and wait. You would think that they probably are going to go back into the terminal to wait for a more regular situation.
Exactly. And, other decisions to be made, whether to rescreen a lot of these folks, because we don't know the details of, they have one in custody, and but they don't have a lot of other information, so it's hard to say. But yeah, you're going to have a lot of folks in the secure area. They may have to make decisions to rescreen some, but you're not going to have a lot of movement. I don't see flights going in and out at all now. I was just checking FlightAware. Meaning a lot of airplanes are going to get diverted and ground stops in effect for Fort Lauderdale, which is going to back some air traffic up for a while now.
And that's what we're seeing right now, several planes there waiting to take off, and they're not going anywhere. Stephen, we had talked a little bit about this shooting reportedly happening inside of the baggage claim area, an area that a person does not need to be screened to go through. What sort of security challenges are presented for law enforcement in that area in which people don't need to be screened?
Well, that's a huge challenge because you've got folks coming in and out from the street that are obviously there's not a huge law enforcement presence out there. And I've always been obviously a huge advocate for canine patrols and much more patrols in that area because it's pretty much wide open when you have that many folks coming in off the street. Cars and vehicles are not inspected as they come onto the airport, so it is obviously a huge concern for law enforcement. But there is a good sized presence there at the airport. It probably didn't take them very long to get involved and get engaged. But again, one of the more vulnerable places on an airport.
Here again is the tweet that just came out from the airport. All services temporarily suspended at FLL. Please contact your air carrier about your flight information. Needless to say, if you at home have a friend, a loved one who is scheduled to fly into Fort Lauderdale Airport today, be in touch with them and be aware that the airport is closed and probably everything is going to be disrupted for hours to come.
We are also getting some reports, Michael, Eric, that Governor Scott is headed to Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. That information just coming in right now, that Governor Rick Scott is headed to the airport. That just coming into our newsroom, and just a lot of information coming to our newsroom as well. I also want to read you this tweet. Now, this is coming from Mike Hernandez. He's the communications director for Mayor Jimenez and Miami-Dade County, and he tweeted out that out of an abundance of caution, enhanced security measures are going to be at place at MIA and Port of Miami. He tweeted that about 13 minutes ago, and really rightfully so. In a situation like this, out of abundance of caution, there are going to be enhanced security measures for Miami International Airport and the Port of Miami as well. Information that Governor Rick Scott is headed to Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport at this moment. Also looking at the Broward Sheriff's Twitter account right now. They've done a very good job at keeping us posted. This just posted 2 minutes ago. I'm going to read this verbatim from Broward Sheriff saying, confirming multiple people are dead and a number of people transported to hospital. Upper level of airport is open. So that tweet, again, that was 2 minutes ago by Broward Sheriff, confirming multiple people are dead, a number of people transported to the hospital, and that the upper level of the airport is now open. Of course, services temporarily halted at the airport, rightfully so, as they continue to work this scene. Obviously, the question now is we keep hearing multiple people are dead, and that's the number we're trying to get. We're trying to figure out exactly how many people were shot dead in this. We're also trying to figure that out. We don't know how many people were injured. We do know that there were a number of people taken to the hospital. There could have been some other minor injuries that may not have required transports. So the number of people injured, we originally said 9 were hurt. That number, I wouldn't be surprised if it went up. So we're trying to get that information. And of course, the big question when we see the Broward Sheriff tweeting out and confirming that multiple people are dead as a result of this shooting at the airport, the big question is how many people? Very hard to hear this information, Michael and Eric. We were just talking about flying in and out of Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. I just flew out of the airport this weekend, and it's hard to imagine something like this happening. Hard to imagine someone walking in and being able to do this. But of course, information still coming into our newsroom, a whole lot of questions that we're hoping to get answered. Multiple people dead, a number of people taken to the hospital. I'm going to continue monitoring social media and, of course, working with our sources in our news desk to get even more information. For those of you at home, I can only imagine the concern some of you may be feeling right now. If you do have loved ones that may be flying in and out of the airport, maybe you know of someone who landed not too long ago, or maybe you knew someone who was going to be at Terminal 2. Maybe you were outside waiting to pick them up. We can only imagine the concern and worry you are feeling right now, and that's why we are working to make sure all the information we present on air is correct and is factual. And as soon as we get that information, and it is solid information, we're going to bring it to you. So right now, multiple people dead, and that is the number we're trying to get confirmed. We're trying to figure out exactly how many people.
Janice Fernandez, thank you very much. It is just 30 seconds past 2 o'clock here on a Friday afternoon. Eric Getze, Michael Putney, Janice Fernandez, and the Local 10 News team we are covering a huge, breaking and very tragic story. 9 people shot, several of them shot to death at Fort Lauderdale International Airport. We have crews at the scene and reporters all over the place. One of them is Local 10 News investigator Bob Norman, who is at Broward General. And Bob, bring us up to date again. You said they brought in 6 patients from the airport there?
That is what we know. We witnessed 6 coming in. We believe that's the extent that will be coming in. A fire official said the 6th person was the last person that they were bringing. Now, I'm not even sure, though, if they might be bringing patients to other hospitals. Probably not, because this is so close to the airport in proximity. But I can tell you of those 6, 4 appear to be unconscious. Again, we have no idea the extent of any of these injuries. But 4 appeared to be unconscious, and the final 2 were awake, alert, seemingly not in too much pain. They seemed to be okay. Perhaps grazed. Who knows what their injuries are? But one image that kind of stands out is the 5th transport. An older woman being wheeled out, and her husband was inside the ambulance with her. He jumps out with his suitcase. They had obviously just landed, and if this did happen at Batty Spring, apparently he got his suitcase, so maybe it was a carry-on, but he had the suitcase with him, which was a kind of a real visual symbol of where this occurred and what had occurred. But at this point, it looks like 6 patients here, Broward Health Trauma Center, and we're being told no other patients will be coming through.
Bob Norman there at Broward General. Let's get right to the scene. Local 10 news anchor Todd Tongan arriving there. Todd, what are you seeing?
Eric, it's an eerie.
Todd, all right, now we hear you, but we just lost you. Go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, go right ahead, Todd.
Okay. Well, sorry, traveling under the tunnel that goes beneath the new runway. We are on Perimeter Road trying to get access into the airport, and it's extremely difficult because the police have sealed the airport off completely. We were actually on 595 getting off on that off-ramp to the airport when multiple law enforcement vehicles passed ramp off. Now we are on the Perimeter Road, and we are just on the outskirts of the airport. I can actually see one of BSO's SWAT vehicles, one of their armored vehicles, is on the upper ramp that heads to departures right now, closing off the airport. We're right just above the sun.
Todd, we're going to.
Vehicles parked.
Todd, it's Michael. Can I suggest that we wait until your signal you get in a better position, because your phone signal is kind of breaking up? But here is the police, the BSO vehicle that Todd was referring to, that is blocking the lane coming in, and they also, I think. It looks like they've intentionally parked that bus, Eric,
that's right,
to block the other lanes. So they are now in control of all traffic, very clearly trying to get into the airport.
And Sky 10 continues to take a wider picture and pans there. You can see as all those cars are stopped and diverted down to one lane, if you look more towards the top of your screen there, the backup starting to become significant. So you may be watching this, know someone on a plane that is not taking off and say, I'm going to pick them up. Know that there is now a growing traffic situation there at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport on the access ramps. As you can see, it's looking to back up there just a little bit as well. Okay, wow, they're diverting traffic there as well. That is the entryway to the airport, right, coming in from 595, I believe. And so, again, a growing situation. No flights are going anywhere as of right now, but it's going to be challenging for you to get to the airport in the first place.
You know, you can only imagine how complex this crime scene is down there in the baggage area of Terminal 2. 9 people shot, several people killed by this shooter who is in custody. But to canvass the crime scene, to account for the shots, how they happened, where the bodies were, I mean, this is going to be I would imagine, something that's going to be all night and maybe into the day tomorrow. So I'm sure the people at the airport are going to try to find other provisions for people flying Delta and Air Canada, because Terminal 2 is the main service hub for those 2 airlines. You compound those situations, Michael, with the dozens, if not hundreds, of people who are there who are considered to be witnesses, and the chaos that we understand was happening, as you can only imagine, right after those shots were fired, as described by Ari Fleischer. People running. Twitter. That's right. Yeah, he said people were running, and why not? If you hear gunshots, see people falling, it is a normal instinct to run to protect yourself. We still do, obviously. Here's a picture of what we believe are passengers who were taken off a plane. They are still out there on the tarmac. A number of other passengers were taken upstairs and then out through the air bridge, and we believe taken onto the 2nd floor of the airport, which is open. The ground floor of Terminal 2 is closed, and I imagine will be closed for some time to come.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talk about obviously this is affecting a lot of the operations at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. And on your screen right now, we are getting this video where you could clearly see this is baggage claim. And you could just see really how chaotic it is at this point. You see a lot of people sort of walking around trying to wondering what's going on. You see bags just all over the place, unattended. So incredible to see this video here, and what a terrifying situation it really must have been and still is for people in or out of the airport. But yes, operations definitely affected at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. So you know, anyone at home, maybe you were trying to catch a flight today, really have to call your airline at this point. And right now, Sky 10 is getting a pretty decent view of the backup, of the traffic backup that this is causing. Now, of course, several ways you can get inside the airport, one of them being along 595. So we're expecting to see some delays on 595. Obviously, delays along US 1, I-95 as well, as this continues to cause a backup. You know, you're thinking about these people who may have been heading to the airport. They may not have even been listening to the news, may not have even known something was going on. And right now, you see that backup. So you at home, if you were planning on catching a flight that was leaving out of Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport, maybe you were supposed to pick up a loved one later on tonight, call the airline, because chances are operations are going to be affected. You mentioned, Michael and Eric, that this is obviously a scene that we're going to see in place for quite some time. We're talking about multiple people dead after this shooting, so not really looking at seeing operations going back to normal anytime soon at this point.
All right, Janice, thank you. As we mentioned, we have several Local 10 crews there at the airport. We're covering the hospitals as well. We have Local 10 news anchor Todd Tongan. He is live. Todd, describe what you're seeing.
Eric, first of all, let me describe where I am. I'm just outside of the cell phone lot that folks go to when they're waiting for someone to arrive. You see just beneath the entrance to the airport, and just above on that entrance that heads into the departures, you can see an armored car. I believe that's BSO's armored vehicle that is parked and in place and blocking anything or anyone from traveling down the departures route, or at least checking them before they move into the airport. You can see the cell phone lot is completely full. Folks there I talked to saying they're waiting on incoming passengers. The strange thing is that most operations have been suspended here at the airport, but we have seen flights arriving and departing, both landing and taking off. So some flights have not been affected by this, at least that are inbound. But the problem is that folks that are coming here to pick up friends and family members can't make it into the airport and get them. And Uber and taxis can't either. These people here are trying to wave down a taxi or an Uber or a Lyft any ride they can get, because they say they're stranded here because none of the drivers can make their way into the airport, much like me and my photographer, Jason Weitzman. We could not find an entrance that was open to the airport. This is the best we've found so far. Now, this parking garage appears to be open, so we're hopeful that we can make our way in there and then also get inside the airport and give you some more details on that. But you can clearly see the law enforcement presence here is extremely strong. All entrances to the airport are closed. You just saw a flight taking off. You see another one up there circling that looks like it appears that it is about to land. The problem being that nobody can get into or really out of the airport as far as getting a taxi or an Uber or a ride home.
Todd Tongan live at Fort Lauderdale International. Todd, thank you very much. I think everybody at that airport is going to be there for quite some time to come. Although, Eric, I think it is good news to see that flight just did take off, and apparently some other flights are landing. That does explain Governor Rick Scott is arriving, we're told, is going to go to the airport. He flies around the state in his own private plane. I was kind of wondering, well, how's he going to get to the airport? Well, the answer is I'm sure that air traffic control will give him permission to land. Then he will be there. So we expect to hear from Governor Scott, from Broward Mayor Marty Carr, and Sheriff Scott Israel in a while. We don't know when that will be, but at some point, the sheriff and the mayor and maybe the airport director are going to give us the particulars about what happened, who the shooter was, why perhaps he opened fire in the baggage claim area. We simply don't know that.
One of the first reporters to that scene here, Local 10 News reporter Jeff Wines here. Let's check back in with Jeff. Jeff, where are you now? Yes, Jeff.
My thumb is up, Bill. My thumb is up. My thumb is up, Bill.
Yeah, Jeff, we can see you, Jeff. We've got a bit of a delay here, so we're going to check in back with Jeff in just a moment. Malka, you'd mentioned the governor is flying in.
Eric,
go ahead,
Michael,
Janice.
If I may interrupt you very quickly, Eric and Michael, because, again, I've mentioned I'm monitoring Twitter, and we just got this new update from Broward Sheriff. They just posted this tweet really just a few seconds ago saying, update, again, I'm reading this verbatim, but it says, update, 8 people injured and transported to an area hospital. That is coming from the Broward Sheriff official Twitter account. The update is that 8 people injured, transported to an area hospital. I believe we hear Jeff.
If the signal goes out, but this is the scene here. You have the FBI, you have border protection here, you have the Broward Sheriff's
audio
office.
problems here.
There are fire rescue units from far away as sunrise on the scene here, and there are people here who were in the terminal at the time, who heard pops, who ran out, who saw people that were bleeding, people who were shot. Apparently, from what we are being told from
Jeff Weinzer, if you can hear us, bring us up to date. Where are you at the airport, and what do you see?
Airlines terminal. Several people who were not shot were overcome their nerves. There's one lady right now in the back of Rescue 14 being treated. You can see all the law enforcement personnel here at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. That is the battalion chief. Several people, I don't know what you've reported so far, several people were actually taken to Broward Health to be treated for injuries. We do not have confirmation. This gentleman right here we interviewed earlier, he was working inside at the time. Some of his co-workers.
Jeff is there at the airport. We're going to check in with Jeff and bring you the very latest details that he is learning as they become available here at Local 10. Again, there is a suspect in custody at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport after this deadly shooting there. We understand it happened in Terminal 2, a terminal that services both Air Canada and Delta Airlines crews. Someone in custody, supportive of some of the other things we are seeing, and it looks like people that had been kept out on the tarmac there are being moved closer to the building, as well as the governor is flying in, clearly an indicator they believe that any threat there has ended.
And Eric, Eric, I know it was a little hard to hear me earlier, but we wanted to make sure this information got out there. The Broward Sheriff's Office on their official Twitter account posted this tweet about 4 minutes ago saying, update, 8 people were injured and transported to an area hospital. Earlier, we were speaking with Bob Norman, who had said that there was, from the information he was receiving, that there were 6 people. But now we're getting this update from Broward Sheriff saying that 8 people were injured and transported to an area hospital. Now, of course, the initial reports that we received were that 9 people were hurt in this shooting. We are now getting information that 8 people injured have been transported to the hospital. But of course, we're also getting reports that multiple people dead after this shooting. So that's the number we're trying to get from BSO, is exactly how many people were shot and killed, how many people in total were injured. That's obviously the number we're trying to work on getting, but we know 8 people injured, transported to the hospital, and then of course BSO saying that multiple people are dead after this shooting.
Okay, Janice, thank you. Some logistical updates for you. We reported earlier that Miami International Airport is paying very close attention to what happened here. You can expect an increased security presence there, just as they try and assess any potential threat to what's going on there. Also, we are hearing no impact as of right now on port operations at Port Everglades. A couple of cruise ships who are scheduled to depart tonight. Whether or not anyone is going to be held up in that situation, we don't know. But again, all of the other transport areas here in South Florida paying very close attention and making the proper adjustments on their end.
And the spokesperson for Miami-Dade Mayor Carlos Jimenez says Port Miami is stepping up its security level as well, just out of an abundance of caution.
Let's go back to Todd Tongan. They're live outside of the airport. Todd, what do you see?
Yeah, we are walking right now. The parking garage is actually closed. They wouldn't let us come into the parking garage, but we managed to pull over where the motorcycle parking is and stash our car. Hopefully it won't get towed, but this is actually where the incident occurred. We are right now between terminals 1 and 2 on the baggage claim level. You can see there's a Broward County Fire Rescue hazmat truck right there. Lots of law enforcement vehicles lined up beneath the baggage terminal. There's Terminal 1 is to the right and Terminal 2 is to the left. You see another BSO armored vehicle. I see one off in the distance. We are walking into this area because we really just could not get any access whatsoever by driving. As you can see, cars are just simply abandoned in the middle of the roadway on the entrance to the airport. Folks like this gentleman are grabbing their bags and just trying to find a way out of the airport, but it's they have not been very successful. You can see the police officers here making sure that nobody comes in or nobody comes into the airport. They are allowing passengers to come out of the airport. But
Todd,
I believe that this is the location.
Todd, if I can interrupt you just for a second, you can't see it. I want people at home to understand that on the left side of your screen, this is videotape that was shot not long ago. And I believe, Eric, this was probably at Broward General. And these were the patients who were wounded, injured, being taken by ambulance, Hollywood Fire Rescue, Broward Sheriff's Fire Rescue, into Broward General for treatment. So, Todd, I just wanted to make people sure understand that, in fact, that's not from the airport. That is from the hospital.
And as you can see, it looked like there were some law enforcement officials.
Well, Michael, we were just
okay. Go ahead, Todd. Yeah,
we were just told that we couldn't be here, that we have to leave this area. That the media staging is up on the second floor. You can see the satellite antennas, or rather, the microwave antennas up there. Officer right here just told us that we cannot be down here. This is actually where the incident occurred, and I think they're giving the media briefings on the second floor on the departures level of the airport. So we're going to have to make our way to that area.
All right. Todd Tongan at Fort Lauderdale International. Todd, thanks. And we do have Jeff Weintz here now on the phone from the airport. Jeff, where are you in the airport? What do you see?
I am where this happened, downstairs, Terminal 2, at the baggage claim area. This would be the west side of the baggage claim area. There are about 4 sliding doors, and this would be the one furthest to the west. There is blood on the ground. There are federal agents here. There are BSO officers here. The place is all cordoned off with crime scene tape. We have spoken to several people who were in the baggage claim area at the time who said they heard pop, 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 saw people running. One woman who is French, who couldn't speak English, showed us what she did. She hid behind a garbage can. She put her hands up and she said it was pop, 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 pop. She then started hyperventilating and actually had to be helped by fire rescue. In fact, she's in the back of 14 right now getting some oxygen. Right now, the airport from where we are, or at least when we came in, the airport was shut down to general traffic. They were trying to get people off. The concourse area is trying to clear it out. When we first arrived here, there were ambulances coming from as far away as Sunrise, ambulances from Fort Lauderdale, ambulances from Daisy, all staging on Perimeter Road as they were trying to triage patients, as they were seeing who was injured, who needed to be transported right away, who needed treatment first. There were several code reds, which means people who were shot, who were trauma. They were taken to Broward Health. We believe that we had heard at least 4. We have gotten no official word. Right now, as I'm standing below, I'm in the between the garage and the terminal. I can see up above there are still people with luggage. I would be passengers walking back and forth on the second where you drop people off for arrivals. But down below in the baggage claim area in Terminal 2, that is where it is blocked off. That is where the police activity is. And standing in front of me right now, we see FBI agents, we see Border Patrol agents, we see Broward Sheriff's Office. There are still, the mobile command unit is here. We have not gotten a briefing at all. I did speak to a woman, too, who was picking up her daughter. Her daughter right now is stuck on a plane, can't get off, was coming in from JFK. Those people on the plane right now are well aware of what is going on and why they are sitting on that airplane. They're moving a lot of the airplanes also from this terminal, Terminal 3, as well, so that people can get off. Originally, those people on the airplanes were told that there was some kind of fire alarm situation. They now know what is going on. We spoke to several people. You can hear the ambulance and rescue units still coming through here. We spoke to several people who absolutely heard the pop. They say they heard at least 5 or 6 pops. One gentleman said he did not put 2 and 2 together until people started running. Several people were seen bleeding. There were people helping the wounded out of the terminal onto the kind of like sidewalk area where people pick you up. But the scene has calmed a little here, but earlier a very, very chaotic scene as they were trying to figure out. Right now, we have several, something else. We have police officers running right now. Police officers running right now into the garage area. Several police officers. We're going to follow them. Stay with us. Ish, let's follow them. We have police officers with guns drawn. I don't know if you can see the video, going into the garage area. Ish is going to grab his camera. I'm going to grab the iPad. We're following police officers into the garage.
And Jeff, Calvin Hughes here, just to join you with the coverage now, and I want to let you know that we cannot see what you're seeing, so your words really do matter, so really describe everything that you're seeing right now.
They have a man with his hands up in the garage. They have a man with his hands up in the garage. I'm not sure if you can see my picture. Are you able to see this live picture back at the station?
We're not able to, Jeff.
And is he giving up?
There is some active scene going on right now in the garage outside Terminal 2. People are coming out with their hands up. The sheriff's officers with guns drawn. This is happening in the garage. We don't know what this call was, but something happened that caused all of the police officers. I'm going to walk up to the garage. You can see them running through the garage right now.
How many officers, Jeff?
With guns drawn. What'd you say?
How many officers are you seeing running over there or are in front of the
There
suspect?
are at least 50 officers right now in the garage that just came from Terminal 2 where the incident happened, and you see them walking across right now. Calvin, is that you?
Yes.
Are you seeing my live picture from my iPad?
Now we're seeing
Now
it,
we're
yes.
seeing it, yeah.
Okay, you see this woman running. People who are in the garage are running out of the garage. You see police officers running through the garage, screaming. They're saying, get down. They're telling us to get down. They're telling everybody to get down. They're telling everybody here to get down. Everybody here, I don't know if you see my iPad. Everybody here is getting down. They're telling all of us to get down outside the garage. So we are taking cover.
And Jeff, any idea of what this could be,
Yep.
possibly?
No, unless there's another active shooter, we do not know. But we are being told right now, you see my iPad, there are people down on the ground. We're being told to get down. Originally, those officers were here. You see the officers? I don't know if you can see my signal from my iPad.
We can see it.
Telling everybody to get down.
Yeah. Jeff, we don't want to
Same feeling
assume.
they're going to clear us out of here if it's nothing.
Yeah, we don't want to assume anything.
We're very active
but
team.
clearly,
So if you're just joining us.
Yeah, hold on just a minute. I just want to
3
point
minutes
out
ago,
that
all of those. Look at this coming in right now. You got more officers in vans. More police officers are coming into the airport. We do not know what's going on, but in the last 3 minutes, all of the officers that were in the terminal, all of them, came rushing out into the garage. They have told us all to get down on the ground.
Okay, Jeff, and stand right there. Of course, obviously you have to remain on the ground there until you're given word that you can move about. So stay right there very quickly. Stand by. We're going to go to Sinella Sabovic, who has some more information about what's happening right now with Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. Sinella.
Calvin, good afternoon. As we were waiting for a press conference with the public information officer here at the airport, we saw dozens of police officers just running away from Terminal 2. We are on the upper levels right by the Delta and Air Canada terminals. We just saw lots of police officers, BSO deputies running away from this particular area. And it looks like they are looking at an area by a garage here. Again, we're waiting to get exact details, but that is just what happened literally moments ago. A lot of police officers just running away from this terminal. This is Terminal 2. We are on the upper levels. There's some activity by the garage area.
Sinella, if you can hear me, I'm going to interrupt you for a minute.
And Sinella, I want to add that as Lori Jennings.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I want to interrupt because we got this tweet from the official Broward Sheriff's account where it says, update, 5 people dead and 8 injured were taken to an area hospital. So I wanted to get that information out there. Broward Sheriff tweeting right now this update, 5 people dead, 8 injured that were taken to an area hospital. I'll send it back to you, Sinella.
And Janice Fernandez live there in the newsroom for us. Thank you. We know you're watching Twitter. And I was just saying, as I came in on 595, I saw about 5 undercover vehicles with their lights inside the vehicles blaring. They were pulling over a car. It was not a regular traffic stop, and that was just about half a mile west of the airport. So no doubt Sinella Sabovic and Jeff Wines here are seeing heightened activity there. They're obviously at least questioning a lot of people and on high alert, and possibly making other arrests. We just don't know. Around the scene, there could be accomplices.
And Jeff, let's go back to you. What is the latest on your situation there outside of that garage of Terminal 2?
Hello?
Jeff, go ahead.
Hello? Yes, we are being police. Can you hear me, Calvin, Lori?
Yes, absolutely.
Police are taking us now. They said, all of you come with me. Police are now taking us to a safe area. I don't know if you can see my video, but police are now taking us to a safe area close by the terminal. They have moved us from in between the garage and the terminal. They have moved us. They are moving us now to an area that is surrounded by law enforcement.
And Jeff, we're unable to see your picture. Jeff, we're unable to see your picture, so continue to describe what you're seeing and going through. Go ahead.
What is happening is there were a whole bunch of us in between Terminal 2 and the garage. And I want to say about 5 or 6 minutes ago, all of the law enforcement came from the garage. We're being told to stay underneath, stay on the ground floor by the baggage claim. We were moved from the area between the garage and the terminal. At first, police told us all to get on the ground, get on the ground, get on the ground as they ran through the parking lot.
And Jeff,
now they have us.
Jeff, we just want to clarify for you, and you are so right. My husband is actually on a flight right now. The flight attendant is telling them there's another shooter, there's an active situation, and we are getting information into the news desk telling us that there are more shots fired. BSO scanners are advising more shots, shutting down all entries. We knew that was already there, but it does appear there could be another situation here.
Lori, that would be consistent to what we are seeing. Again, we were shooting video outside of Terminal 2 where the first incident happened. We were between the garage, we were between the terminal in that area outside of Terminal 2 baggage, and all of a sudden, I want to say 30 to 50 police officers came out of Terminal 2 towards us, running with guns drawn past us into the garage. I'm looking right now inside the garage from where I am, and there are people running into the garage. There are police officers in the garage. Okay, we're hearing possible shots fired in Terminal 3, which we are between 2 and 3 right now.
And again, this is not confirmed yet, but something is developing. Definitely, everyone is on alert.
Hold on. Between Terminal 2 and 3. Very loud here, Lori. I can hardly hear you. We are next to a mobile command unit for Broward Sheriff's Fire Rescue. The police officer was being briefed. They said to stay underneath here and between the trucks. We do see a lot of people in the doorway of Terminal 3 waiting to come out, but they're being told to stay there. So right now, it appears there is a very active situation that continues at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. We had the incident earlier where several people were shot. As we were covering that, as we were talking to people about what they witnessed and saw, apparently another possible incident, but I can tell you that police officers from the Broward Sheriff's Office, all of the officers that were in Terminal 2, ran with guns drawn into the garage, clearing out the garage, and now looks like they are headed towards the inside of Terminal 3.
Okay, Jeff.
Where I am standing, there are probably 100 to 200 people.
And Jeff, we are going to allow you to continue to watch and monitor that situation. And we're now at the bottom of the hour, just 1 minute after the bottom of the hour. So we certainly want to give people an overview, if they're just joining us right now, of what's happening at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. Calvin Hughes here, along with Lori Jennings and our Michael Putney. And Michael, you've been covering this story much longer than Lori and I have, although we've been monitoring it from our cars as we were driving in. Bring us up to speed as to how this all happened and when this began to develop.
Well, shortly before 1 o'clock this afternoon, there was a shooting in the baggage area of Terminal 2, which services Air Canada and Delta. Now, who the shooter was, we don't know, but he was taken into custody. But as Laurie just said in the last couple of minutes, it appears there may be a second shooter, and authorities have spread out. They are in the garage. They are trying to see if there is indeed somebody else. And Laurie, did your husband tweet that, in fact, that he had been told on his flight trying to land there that, in fact, there were shots fired?
Yes, and it's very odd because he's been sitting waiting to get off his flight for the last half hour or so, and we are texting back and forth from his plane, and everything had been very quiet, everything had been very calm. They did tell them that a shooter was in custody. They were just waiting to try to get to the terminal, and the next thing you know, the flight attendant told them that they believe there's a second shooter, and they'll be staying on the plane and just to brace themselves. So, and that is... It goes along with what Jeff is seeing there at the airport. So we are working to confirm this second situation. And as I was driving in again, I saw a major traffic stop that was obviously, it was a small dark SUV, but there were about 6 undercover cops just descending upon this vehicle right there about half a mile west of the airport. So they are no doubt spread out everywhere and looking for accomplices and possible second shooters.
And now you see on the left of your screen right there is our Todd Toggin. And Todd, I see you sort of ducking behind that SUV. Tell us what's happening with you.
Well, we've been instructed by BSO to duck down. We're behind a van here. This woman and her friend have parked their car, and BSO officers have told us that we need to stay down. There's canine units here. We've seen probably upwards of 40 to 50 officers from different agencies, some of them SWAT, inside this parking garage, sweeping it. And I can hear the chatter on their microphone says as they talk to each other, they at one point said, 6th floor, and then we saw a rush of officers head to the 6th floor. We've seen a lot of activity. We haven't heard any gunfire, but we have been told to be extremely cautious and to stay down. It's a pretty tense situation. This is a traveler who is unaware of what's going on.
And Tom,
cars have been driving up, and the officers have told them just put the vehicle in park, stop the car, and get down below the window level.
Okay,
And,
Todd,
you
if
can see
we
the
can just
checking this
interrupt here
officer
very
right
briefly.
now.
Todd, if we can interrupt very briefly. We're looking at the right of our screen. And Michael, you see there so many people running on the tarmac there.
Well, there had been several hundred people who had been on the tarmac, taken off planes. Now they are walking briskly. Some indeed are running. We don't know. Some have already been taken into the second floor of the terminal at Fort Lauderdale International. We don't know where. We will follow from Sky 10 where these people are going. And we are going to get a briefing shortly, we believe, from Broward Sheriff Scott Israel, Broward Mayor Marty Carr, and get more solid information. I don't want to get too ahead of the curve here, but if there is a second shooter, the thing that is occurring to me is an act of terrorism. And I pray that, in fact, I'm wrong and that it is not an act of terrorism, but it seems to have some of the earmarks. I mean, you have a shooter opening fire in the baggage claim area of an airport, and then perhaps another shooter in the parking garage. And we need to get solid information, but it's very, very disturbing.
And for you at home, you have to know there is no getting in or out of Fort Lauderdale International Airport, especially now if there's a second active situation going on, at least preparing for that. You are not going to get in or out of the airport. Best to avoid if you can. We know it's so frustrating not to be able to get to your loved ones flying in, but just hold off. The FAA is warning of delays all over the country because of this. And as you see, most of these people, you see a couple of bags, but most of them have no luggage. They don't have anything. They were told to get off their planes or get out of their area very quickly. And there is definitely an emergency sense right now trying to confirm if there is indeed a second shooter.
It appears those are people who had been standing for some time beneath their planes after they had been taken off. Now they appear to be walking away from them. We don't know where they are walking, but this is obviously for security reasons. Here we have a picture on the left. We see somebody huddled underneath the stairs of the parking garage, and there's some people up here on one of the top floors of that garage.
And that all happening outside of Terminal 2. So let's, if we can, the airborne flights that are within about 50 miles of FLL will be landing at the airport. We're going to have much more on that in just a moment, but we have something from Senator Bill Nelson, Lori.
Senator Bill Nelson has identified the shooter now at the Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport as Esteban Santiago. That is all we know so far, but our Florida Senator Bill Nelson identifying the shooter believed to have caused this death of 5 people and injured 8 others at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International as Esteban Santiago. We are going to work to get you more information on him.
So we have the who, now we need to know the why, and that is going to be the big question as we await that briefing that is supposed to take place, but doubtful considering what you see on the left-hand side of your screen there, with an officer with his gun drawn and a reporter, it looks like, right behind him, huddled behind that staircase, that concrete staircase. And then our Jeff Weinseer and Todd Toggin ducking behind vehicles, and Jeff Weinseer was taken to a safe place along with other reporters just outside of Terminal 2 in that garage. This is a situation that's still developing, and we are still waiting to find out and to confirm if there is a second shooter involved.
The picture that we are seeing on that left side of your screen is being shot by a photographer with Sinala Sabovic. And Sinala, tell us about what you are seeing there. Why are people huddling for safety?
Michael, we're trying to figure that out as well. We were getting ready for a live presser with the public information officer from this airport to get briefed on the initial incident that happened here. But police officers immediately started running dozens away from Terminal 2 going towards Terminal 3. You're taking a live look right now. We are at Terminal 2 overlooking the garage area. We heard some reports, but we still have yet to confirm this, that there was a new shooting by the Alamo car rental. This is located by the garage area over here. What we have seen within the last few minutes is officers with canine dogs circling the area, officers with BSO going up and down the staircases, apparently looking for someone. As you can see right there, they're getting pedestrians off to safety, a lot of them fearing. We've seen people crying, people crouching, as you can see, under the staircase. We're still waiting to get confirmation as to exactly what happened here. We're hearing words that there's possibly another shooting incident, but again, we still have to get that confirmed by the Broward Sheriff's Office. But again, what you see is people being ushered off to safety here. Police personnel going up and down the staircases here. There are about 7 floors at this particular garage. This is right in front of Terminal 2. Now, it's a standstill here. You cannot get in or out of this airport right now as police are trying to figure out what's going on and get a hold on this situation. Again, BSO sheriffs circling the perimeter here. We've even been told to get away from this area and to go inside Terminal 2 to safety. But right now, as you can see, the situation is centered at this garage area right in front of Terminal 2. Sheriffs with the BSO, Broward Sheriff's Office, ushering people to safety. You see right there a worker being taken away from this garage area. Again, traffic is a mess here. No one allowed in or out from what we are hearing. Again, the situation details slowly starting to trickle in. We're going to keep you posted as soon as we get any new details. But as you can see right there, passengers trying to get to their flights being ushered away to safety, away from this garage where apparently there possibly might be a second shooting situation. We're going to keep you posted as soon as we hear any more updates.
All right,
Calvin,
Sanella,
Lori.
well, thank you. And I think it's important to really emphasize here that possible situation here. This is standard investigative work to make sure that no other shooter is involved. So again, this is a possible active shooter situation, possible. We cannot emphasize that enough because we really don't know for sure, and we are working to find out for certain if there is another shooter, but these officers are taking no chances, bottom line. Lori, we have some more information on that shooter, right?
We do have more information on the shooter in custody, Esteban Santiago. According to Senator Bill Nelson, he is 26 years old, and he was carrying a military ID. We don't know what form of military ID, but that is all according to Florida Senator Bill Nelson. You see this SWAT officer now coming down the stairs. This is a live picture right now at one of the parking garages there. A lot of SWAT officers positioned, of course, in the highest positions on these parking garages because there is very easy to shoot from those parking garages right toward the airport.
And Michael, if we can take sort of a macro view of what's happening right now, this is Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood International Airport, not even really the most important airport here in town. I mean, though many people do fly in and out of it, and I don't want to certainly downgrade. It's important, certainly it is important to the people of Broward County, but if you take a macro view, this is something that we're used to seeing overseas, not here in South Florida, let alone at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport.
Oh, how right you are, Calvin. You think about things we have seen, the recent terrible tragedy in Istanbul, Turkey, the truck that went into the Christmas market in Berlin, and you think about the truck last summer in Nice, and these seem like, yes, well, it may happen there, but these things don't happen here. Well, it appears it has happened here. And as terrible as it is to have 5 fatalities, 5 people dead, 8 injured, it's a very large number.
Yes.
I think the question is, who is Esteban Santiago? Why would he open fire? Absolutely. Was he by himself? Did he have an accomplice? And what is the reason? Why would you do this? We are hoping that Sheriff Scott Israel and other authorities in Broward County will soon have a press conference, and we will learn a little bit more. And just so you know, the video on the left side of your screen was shot about, I guess an hour ago at Broward General, as according to our Bob Norman, 6 people who had been wounded and injured were brought to Broward General. Bob says 4 of them looked to be in not very good shape. 2 of them were.
And that is new video there, and the chaplain there to greet those victims, no doubt just haunted by what they saw and what happened to them. As we are learning now that the president has been briefed, the White House telling us President Obama has been briefed on the Fort Lauderdale shooting, and as soon as he speaks and as soon as he gets further information, we will of course carry it for you. There is the chaplain there who's going to have a very busy day at Broward General dealing with all of these injuries. And right now, the latest numbers from the Broward Sheriff's Office tweets tells us 5 people dead, 8 injured.
And there is a lot that we don't know. And Michael, you brought up a list of questions that are going to be asked by investigators, and certainly we were looking for more information coming from a briefing that was set to take place probably about 45 minutes ago, if not 15 minutes ago, but not likely to happen as you see all of those officers who were in the garage outside of Terminal 2 looking into what is unconfirmed, we cannot emphasize that enough, a possible active shooting situation with a second shooter, but again, we don't know that for sure. Right. This could certainly be precautions taking place by the Broward Sheriff's Office, ATF, and a number of other law enforcement officials who were there at the airport. And
here is a really interesting development. This is Sky 10 video. It's live on the left side of your screen. I believe it's live. Yeah. And these are people who were in the airport who are finding the only way to get out of the airport is to walk down this path by the train tracks.
You know what I think? I think Columbine when I see this.
Oh my goodness.
I think the shooting in Pennsylvania at the school is with the hands up to make sure that they don't have any weapons. Yeah. You know? This is remarkable to see this happening at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. Outside of
this is an image that will stick with all of us for a long time.
Absolutely.
Americans and visitors in our community walking with their hands up outside of Fort Lauderdale International Airport. Very disturbing.
On the train tracks, that's outside of the airport. And again, after that shooting situation that took place earlier with 5 people dead, 8 injured, we know that for sure, but we don't know if there is a second shooter possibly involved. You see there that headline there on your television screen of Esteban Santiago, the 26-year-old shooter who is now in police custody. I have no doubt investigators are asking him every possible question as to why you would do this. And right now we don't know if it's terrorism related or possibly a domestic situation. There is so much that we do not know.
What we do know is that our Jeff Weinseer is in the airport, and I believe he's got new information for us. Jeff, please tell us what's going on there.
Michael and Lori and Calvin, it does not appear from where we at least are standing, and we are standing with paramedics. We are standing at a mobile command post between Terminal 2, between Terminal 3 on the lower level. We are here with passengers. We are here with people who are working in the airport at the time. It does not appear as that second incident would be an active shooter or shots fired based on the activity that I am seeing from where I am and based on the demeanor of the paramedics and the law enforcement that I see where I am. However, that being said, we are still, the airport is shut tight. We are still between Terminal 2, Terminal 3 being shielded by the floor up above and next to a mobile command post. And there are about 100 to 200 of us all in a pack using this stuff as a shield. At one point that this originally happened, the second incident, as we told you, it was really an unbelievable scene to be there covering a story when all of a sudden 30 to 50 police officers storm at you, running from the terminal where this incident happened to the garage with guns drawn. Everybody in the garage told to get down. Everybody in the immediate area told to get down, that there may be another possible incident. Then we were told to come over to this area over here. At one point, the paramedics for Broward Sheriff's Fire Rescue had bulletproof vests on and helmets. These are the paramedics, not police officers. Right after that second incident, we saw Fort Lauderdale police cars coming in here, several of them. They are now parked in front of Terminal 3. We are waiting for the next direction. People left their luggage. We left a lot of our equipment where we were between Terminal 2 and the garage. Everybody was told to get down immediately and then come to this area of the base. On what we are seeing now, and based on what we heard, because we were in the vicinity, we didn't hear any shots fired. We just saw police officers rush out of Terminal 2 where that original incident happened into the garage. People, bystanders, were coming out of the garage with their hands up. So police said, hey, not us, we're evacuating, we're getting out. Police ran towards Terminal 3, through the garage to Terminal 3. And right now we are between Terminal 2 and 3. We're basically in a hold pattern with several hundred people surrounded by paramedics and surrounded by the mobile command unit from the Broward Sheriff's Fire Rescue.
All right, Jeff, hold your thought for a minute. Keep us up to date in a minute. Right now, let's go to Local 10 News reporter Todd Tongen, anchor Todd Tongen, who is also in that parking garage. Todd, what is the latest where you are?
Well, Michael, they have swept this garage. They did it very forcefully. They came in. We see Homeland Security. I see Broward Sheriffs. I see Fort Lauderdale Police. They come into the base of this parking garage near 1D, and they have cleared it of all employees, passengers. They told anybody driving to put the vehicle in park, and at gunpoint told them to put their hands in the air and leave the parking garage. I had a SWAT commander come up to me at one point and say, "We have reports of an active shooter in this garage. We need you to leave." So we are just on the outskirts of the garage behind some cement abutments, and they are still working to clear this garage. And we see a deputy just passed by me, and now they're headed back towards the terminal. So at one point, another deputy was talking on his radio and said, sixth floor, we've got reports on the 6th floor. Of course, now all of this, we cannot confirm that there was a second active shooter, but I can tell you extremely tense moments here inside this parking garage, as literally people were told to duck down, get behind the wheel of their car, put it in park, shut it off, hands in the air, get out of the garage, take cover.
And Todd, to back that up, the Broward Sheriff just tweeting out at 2:50 just now, active search, unconfirmed reports of additional shots fired on airport property. So they are saying that they are actively searching anyway, and they are still trying to get to the bottom of this. Meantime, we are getting in reaction from President-elect Donald Trump. He has been on Twitter. We want to share that with you on the screen right now. President-elect Donald Trump tweeting out there is an ongoing incident in Terminal 2. No, he says monitoring the terrible situation in Florida. Just spoke to Governor Scott. Thoughts and prayers for all. Stay safe. And certainly, as you know, President Obama has been alerted as well. He is being briefed at this moment. And as soon as we hear from the president or the governor, we will get that to you immediately.
We certainly want to bring you up to date as we approach the top of the hour here of what's happening at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport in terms of the latest information. We know that no one is allowed to leave or to enter the airport on the north side Perimeter Road and 595. We also know that the FAA is certainly looking into whether or not flights are going to be diverted from here. They did put out a statement. Other airborne flights that are headed to FLL will be delayed or diverted to other airports. Flights destined for Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport that haven't departed will be held on the ground at the origination airport. Travelers headed to FLL should check with their air carriers.
And speaking of that, Calvin, even MIA is taking precautions. They say out of an extreme abundance of caution, extra security measures are in place at MIA. So even if you think you're not affected because you're flying out of MIA, do know that all operations are normal there right now, but you may experience some delays as they take these extra precautions because of what you were looking at live. At this point, I mean, so many people we're seeing with their hands up, walking through these areas. It appears in those walkways from terminal to terminal where you would normally go to get your Uber or your taxi home. Most of these people with no luggage, no belongings, they had to rush out of these planes or rush out of the terminals with nothing. And at this point, that sight and these helicopters in the air, a very tense situation.
It is a scary, chaotic scene at Fort Lauderdale Airport. It has been since shortly before 1 o'clock this afternoon. So the last 2 hours have been a frightening time for thousands of people who are there. And tragically, 5 people were shot to death. 8 people were injured. We are hoping to hear from authorities soon. As Calvin just said, there was a news conference scheduled for roughly 45 minutes ago, and because the situation is so fluid, they have obviously pushed it back.
And we are going to first check in with Janice Fernandez because so much is happening with social media in terms of so much information coming out, both pictures and people telling their stories. Janice, I know you've been tracking it, so give us an update as to what you're watching and monitoring.
FLL on the search bar in Twitter, you get hundreds of tweets of people at the airport right now. A lot of people sending out their prayers, obviously a lot of news organizations. And of course, there were those possible reports of that additional shooter, but of course, BSO sending out that tweet that they searched and there are unconfirmed reports of additional shots fired on airport property. But of course, we're monitoring everything on social media. But I do want to bring this to your attention because we know a lot of you at home right now. We can only imagine the concern and worry. You may have had a lot of loved ones flying into the airport, maybe flying out of the airport, and you may be having a hard time getting hold of your loved ones. So we want to give you this statement. This is from Air Canada because they are saying that all their customers and employees are reported accounted for and safe. Now, these were passengers on departing flights were safely evacuated on the tarmac, and these were from flights arriving. Flight number 1602, flying in from YUL. Those are the initials of that airport. And then flight 1622 flying in from YYZ. They're being held off the gate for the time being, but at least Air Canada sending out this information. So if you know someone that was on one of those flights, we can let you know that they are safe, they are okay, but those flights being held off on the gate for the time being. I'm going to read you those flight numbers one more time. Flight numbers 1602, that was arriving from YUL. Those are the initials for the airport. And then the other flight was 1622 from YYZ. But of course, we're looking at all these images. We see so many people on the tarmac right now. We know so many of you at home wondering if your loved ones are okay. Right now, BSO confirming those 5 people dead, 8 others injured, taken to the hospital. Our Bob Norman actually sent us an update that at least the last 2 people, at least 2 of the 8 injured, it did appear their injuries were not as a result of gunshot wounds. So you can imagine the chaos that may have ensued from baggage claim, people probably injured in some sort of way. So not all those injuries are from gunshot wounds. Some could be other injuries. Maybe they fell, maybe bumping into other people. So we want to let you know that. But of course, confirming those 5 people dead, that according to BSO. And I've been monitoring the BSO's Twitter
driving
account.
Very slowly. As the traffic was, I just heard
looks like
pop,
we have this
pop,
interview
pop,
that
pop,
Sanella
like
is getting
3 to
right
4
now. So let's
shots.
listen in really
And then
quick.
Is waiting for his daughter. He's going to let us know what he heard when he drove through the terminal, Terminal 1. Can you tell us again what you were just...
Sure, when we were driving right through Terminal 1, we were driving with the windows down, and we just heard about 3 to 4 shots, and then we saw everybody kind of running towards this direction. And then the police all started moving in, and they went towards the parking lot. Oh. We're sitting right across from the parking lot.
And this is that garage?
That's the garage, correct. Right here.
Gotcha. And who are you here to pick up? Your daughter?
My daughter, she's flying in from the Bahamas. She's fine. She's inside, and she's in the customs terminal.
What are they telling her inside?
Just evacuation program.
And what is this evacuation?
We don't know. It's just how to, I guess, leave the airport in case of an emergency.
And you've been here for the last half hour to 45 minutes.
We've been here for 2 hours now.
Sanella Sabovic live. Thank you. We need to get right to Jeff Weinsteer.
First was
on
at
the
the
scene
entrance,
there in
and
one
now
of
it's
the
in this spot right here.
in one of the parking garages. Jeff, take it away.
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Moved all of us from underneath against the wall. They told us to put our camera down, and the sheriff's office and Border Patrol, they're going to be searching us one by one. Each one of us is going to be searched right now. We have been asked to put down our equipment. There are Broward Sheriff's officers. There are airport employees. There are Border Patrol agents. There are people here from the work at the airport, and we are told now we are all standing against the wall in a single file, up against the wall that separates kind of where the public is from the runway area between Terminal 2 and Terminal 3. And I am going to be searched. I'm 2 people away from being searched head to toe by a thief right now.
Okay, Jeff, we're going to have
I was
you...
just searched, and now I am being followed down. I was just searched, and now I'm being moved back to the area where we were. So, all of these people, there's a Broward Sheriff's deputy with a AR-15 that is telling us now to go back to where we were. So we are all, about 200 people, up against the wall, now being searched. So they're searching everybody at the airport as we speak. Calvin Morris.
Okay. All right, Jeff, thanks a lot. A situation that is still developing right now, and certainly we are coming up on the top of the hour right now at almost 3 o'clock here, and this situation developing still even at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport, more than an hour after the first shots rang out. And in a situation where SWAT team members, VSO, just a number of law enforcement officers are swarming this second garage there. And you can see on the left side of your screen there are passengers and just people standing around waiting to find out more information as we are trying to figure out if there is a second shooter involved in a situation that has led to 5 people getting shot to death, 8 people injured inside of a terminal. The baggage claim that services Delta and Air Canada. But a situation that we are still continuing to monitor as Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport is shut down, and there are a number of people stuck on the tarmac in planes and also standing around as well. And you can see there on the right of your screen something we have seen a lot of, people walking out of the garage and also walking around the airport with their hands up, a case of police taking no chances and everyone being a possible suspect.
At this point, ATF and FBI are on the scene. You can imagine, I mean, all authorities are there. The FAA warning of delays across the country because of this. But so far, the situation at MIA is normal. We want to let you know, as far as a motive in this, all we know right now is the shooter is a 26-year-old man named Esteban Santiago. He lived in Naples, or lives in Naples. He is in custody. We should emphasize that. Hopefully he is being questioned right now, and they're going to try to figure out what led up to this and if he had any accomplices. He was carrying some form of military ID, but Senator Bill Nelson of Florida cannot confirm whether that was his ID or not. But he did have that on him. He was born in New Jersey, living in the Naples area. And according to some witnesses on several network broadcasts, he was just silent, did not say a word, and even shot people who were down on the ground.
And Michael, as we take a look at this picture here, it's for so many people hard to believe that this is happening in Fort Lauderdale.
It is shocking. I think shocking is the only appropriate word I can think of. Shocking, disturbing, awful, tragic. Why would somebody go into the baggage claim area of an airport and open fire and, if that's true, fire at people who are already on the ground? I mean, this is reprehensible. It's awful. It's totally sociopathic. But we don't know anything about Esteban Santiago. Certainly, authorities, as you said a minute ago, Calvin, they will be asking him all these questions in the days to come. We will learn more about him, but what we know now is that he is allegedly a killer.
Well, this is a real game changer for so many people who travel in and out of South Florida. We have a team of reporters who are following this story from our newsroom and spread out all across Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. I believe we have our Leanne Motorhone, who is following the latest developments in terms of the people who were shot. And also the latest situation happening at the airport as well. Leanne, let's begin with you. Okay, we are now going to go with the second reporter, whom I believe is standing by as well. Leanne is certainly working the story as well. Todd Toggin, if you're there, let's kick off our coverage with you once again.
Talk to the law if I had. Well,
Todd, if you're able to hear us, can you bring us an update from your location?
Okay, so we're going to work on trying to get Jeff Wines here right now. Jeff was just getting searched. Police taking no chances out there, Jeff, as there is a possible second active shooter that is at the airport. Jeff.
Yes, they are. As I said.
Jeff, are you there?
The employees one by one. That is continuing to go on. Several hundred people all being searched by Border Patrol agents, by Broward Sheriff's Office. Again, we are between Terminal 2, Terminal 3, on the ground floor, on the baggage area. They started searching us after this alleged second incident, which has not been confirmed. People here just leaving their luggage behind, leaving their equipment behind, all racing underneath here between, now they have us surrounded by a bus, a rescue unit, and a mobile command unit, and several police cars. Where we are, believe it or not, Davie Fire Rescue is actually here. Like I said, units from all over the county are here. Now keep in mind, they are doing this while, don't forget, they have an active team that they need to work on in Terminal 2. Now, as we speak, I am watching people coming out of the garage with their hands up, people running towards us, with their hands up out of the garage. So these are people who are probably on the other side of the airport that are now all coming this way. There's a little girl crying in her mother's arms. The mother is crying as well. Really an unbelievable scene to see travelers who are supposed to get on an airplane being escorted at gunpoint with their hands up through a garage. There's a woman there There's a woman that is in a wheelchair being escorted. So basically, what they're doing is it looks like they are cordoning off certain. They probably got the airport divided. And keep in mind, you know how big the airport is. It's no easy task, and they're going from grid to grid, clearing grid to grid, and bringing people into an area where they are searching them. That is what is going on right now between Terminal 2 and Terminal 3, where the curve is. If you come into the airport and you're familiar, you come into the airport and then you curve towards south. It's almost like a U. And we are by that first curve. Underneath, now a woman in front of me in a wheelchair is being helped up, and she will be searched as well. Unbelievable look on a little girl's face as she and her mother come from the garage with their hands up. This little girl must be about 10 years old, in tears. And again, there's people coming from the garage across from Terminal 2 into our area that likely come from another area of the airport. And this might be the area of the airport where they're going to be searching everybody for possible weapons or for anything that they could find. So that is going on in front of us right now.
Jeff, we're looking live at just one of many fire rescue vehicles coming into the airport trying to get in. I mean, it just gives you a pit in your stomach as you see and imagine all the people who are stuck on the plane, stuck inside the airport, outside the airport, people who are not going to be able to get food, they're not going to be able to take care of their children, and they're going to be stuck here for hours because of this frightening and tragic situation. But just such a domino effect in this, and so many little children, as you say, who are really going to be left just scarred by this. We can only hope that a combination of BSO, ATF, FBI, they can resolve this situation very quickly and get thousands of people back to some normalcy.
And if we can, Janice Fernandez, I know you're standing by, and this situation sort of reminds me of when there was a shooting at a school. There are so many people who want to rush to the scene and try to figure out what's going on and maybe pick up loved ones, but no one is going in or out of this airport, correct?
That's true, Calvin. And from a traffic standpoint, when we're looking at where exactly Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport is located, you're looking at some big backups. And this is, of course, important to note, especially for those of you who may be getting out of work soon, because we're going to be seeing backups along 595, obviously eastbound as you're heading towards the airport, as well as US 1, which gives you direct access to Terminal Drive, and, of course, I-95 as well. Sky 10, we can see those images on the left side of your screen. You can see just the heavy backups from people trying to get into the airport. And this is important to note because, again, we know a lot of you at home are concerned, you're worried for your loved ones, you may have trouble getting a hold of your loved ones, and we know that your instinct, of course, is to rush over to the airport and to see what's going on, but getting into the airport at this time, it's not going to happen. You can just see the huge backups there, obviously a heavy police presence there, so your best bet at this point is to stay put. Don't try to get to the airport. Of course, if you had a flight today, you're going to have to call your airline and see what's going on. Some flights are being diverted to other airports as well, so make sure to call the airline. But as far as getting to the airport, that's going to be a difficult situation. And I also want to just note very quickly, because Broward Sheriff has been very great all afternoon long, sending out tweets and updating us. And one thing that they did tweet out that we want to get on air to our viewers is they tweeted out to please not to tie up 911. Call takers have no info. So if you're trying to get information, calling 911, that's not going to be their answer. If you have to call, dial the non-emergency number, and that number is 954-764-4357. I'm going to give you that number again, 954-764-4357. Don't hold up the emergency line. Those callers don't have information. We know that this is a scary situation. You're trying to get info. And right now we're looking at live pictures from what appears to be people bowing their heads at the airport, possibly saying a small prayer, maybe gathering around. But again, we're confirming from BSO that 5 people dead, 8 injured after the shooting at the airport. We're going to continue to monitor social media and, of course, the traffic situation as well, and continue to bring you all the updates here.
Well, that is a moving picture that we are seeing live from Fort Lauderdale International Airport. The gentleman on the white shirt on the right side of the screen appears to have been leading that group of people in prayer, and now they are breaking up, but people with their heads bowed. And there's certainly, if there were a moment for prayer, if you are a believer, this is a good time for it.
Certainly is. And then on the right-hand side of your screen, you see what looks like a traffic accident already. If not, just people just parked and pulling into all different situations. We have Todd Tongan now on the left of your screen there. Todd, bring us up to date as we look at SWAT vehicles trying to get through the traffic into the airport.
Lori, we're in Terminal 1 right now with some of the passengers that have been sequestered. They out of the parking garages, and we're told to come inside the terminal. You can hear the alarms going off. That's the internal security alarms for the airport saying that there is an emergency situation. Strobes are going off. Just moments ago, airport operations brought over a rabbi who spoke to the crowd and offered his condolences and assistance in anyone that may be stunned, shocked, or grieving over the incident. We did speak to one man that was inside Terminal 2 during that shooting. He did not want to speak to us. He was definitely very shaken up. When I said, "What did you see?" all he said was, "I just saw him do this," and mimed holding a weapon and firing. He did not want to speak with us. However, he was very shaken up. The other passengers here, for the most part, did not see anything inside Terminal 2, but some of them insist that they did hear gunshots just outside of this terminal, a second set of gunshots that prompted that security scare as a possible second active shooter in the building, or in the parking garage, I should say. They have been told to go ahead and grab a seat, relax. This could take a while for them to clear the airport, and we will have to remain here. Unfortunately, my photographer and I got here in such a rush, grabbed our camera gear, and tried to get the story. He has only one battery right now, so we could lose battery power and won't be able to continue to go live here. But at this point, the situation's under control inside this terminal. They're comfortable enough to let everybody spread out and relax, but Terminal 2 is completely shut down, cordoned off, and the roadway going into the airport on baggage level is an absolute parking garage, and I've never seen that many law enforcement vehicles and emergency vehicles in my life in one location. It is absolutely lit up. You can see through the windows of the terminal all of the cars out there. I'm not sure how long we're going to be able to continue to go live, but as I mentioned, some people here that were inside this terminal insist that they heard a second set of gunshots just outside the terminal in the parking garage. Of course, we cannot confirm that there was any sort of a second shooting at this point.
Okay, and Todd, that fire alarm continues to go off right behind you. We can certainly hear it, but Lori, we saw from Sky 10 what was really an incredible scene of those officers, one with a large rifle just running across what appears to be the overpass of, I don't know if that's 595 or 95 there.
Yeah, it's really hard to tell. It may literally have just been, though, trying to get this SWAT truck and get those other undercover vehicles turned around and into the airport.
Yeah.
It may have just been, them running fast in order to clear the way, because they've got to get these emergency vehicles in. We are seeing SWAT vehicles, ambulances, fire rescue vehicles that can't even move through this traffic to get into the airport. A very tense situation. Sky 10 is kind of scanning the whole scene for us there, trying to bring us into some of these areas. As you can see, some of those terminals there are just empty. Some of the actual plots for the planes. And as you see there, what a unique sight right in front of the main terminal at the base of that U, where it's just empty, absolutely empty, because they have blocked all movement.
Let me make a correction. Earlier I said the Broward mayor is Marty Carr. He was last year. The current mayor is Commissioner Barbara Sharif. She will be the mayor for this year, and I imagine at the news briefing that we will eventually get, we will hear from Mayor Sharif. In the meantime, look here on the tarmac, there are just hundreds of passengers who are still outside waiting for direction, waiting for direction about where to go and what to do. It is just really a chaotic scene at the airport.
It really is to see people. Look at these random groups just stuck out there meandering around. I'm sure some people want to just walk home, literally, or walk toward Griffin Road, walk anywhere to just try to get a cab and get out of there. But by all accounts, it doesn't look like anyone's being allowed to get in or out.
And chaotic scene is a good segue to go to our Leanne Motorhone, who is standing by at one of the hospitals, and to tell us all about what is happening where you are. Leanne.
Well, Calvin and Lori, right now we're at Broward Health Medical Center in Fort Lauderdale. We're told that this is where they have brought those that were injured during this shooting episode. At last check, we did know from the Broward Sheriff's Office that 8 people were brought here with some sort of injuries related to this incident at the airport. And of course, we do know that 5 people did die. 8 people brought here for treatment. We're also told that since the initial incident, we are still getting more and more people coming here to the hospital, and that's because there are so many people that have been brought outside of the airport, forced to wait on the tarmac, that have either been people that are, elderly, that maybe can't be outside for too long, or having some sort of issues, brought here to be treated. Also folks that are just, perhaps agitated or have anxiety attacks or panic attacks because of what's happened, also brought here, things of that nature. So we are still continuing, if you can imagine, to see people brought here as a result of this initial incident.
Leanne, if
Calvin
we
and
could
Lori, back to you.
Okay, Leanne, if we can just interrupt just very quickly. Let's listen in to the left side of your screen there with what appears to be officers from the BSO Sheriff's Department that are going to talk to us about what's happening out there.
And I'm going to see if we can get the airport director so he can tell you what's going on as far as the airport. Okay. We'll be back in about 10 minutes.
10 minutes. We're giving you sort of the...
So sort of a 2-minute warning there with our Sinella Sabovic standing by with her microphone to make sure that we get the very latest information, a briefing that probably should have taken place about an hour ago, but what appeared to be, we aren't calling it an active shooter that's there, but an active scene certainly was developing in the garage just across from Terminal 2.
The 2 people whom we see there, the lady on the left who is walking out of your view right now is Vita Coleman Wright, who is one of the lead spokespersons for Broward Sheriff Scott Israel, and then you see the gentleman with the FBI vest on. So it appears we will hear from both BSO and the FBI and the airport director.
We have Sinella Sabovic right there to tell us when we need to get right to that scene. Meantime, Jeff Weinsteer, let's get right to him at the terminal. Jeff.
Well, we are between, again, Terminal 2 and 3, and this is where they are bringing people from other parts of the airport, and they are searching them head to toe. What they are doing is we are seeing people coming out of Terminal 3 through the garage, and then in past where the original scene happened, they're lining them up against a back wall over here, and they are searching them. People from all over the United States. Last time you came to me, I told you that I saw a woman in hysterics with her young daughter. We were able to talk to them. They're from Colombia. They knew what would happen when they landed. They weren't allowed off the plane for a while. Then they were allowed off the plane. And that is when that second incident allegedly happened in Terminal 3. They were told to get down inside of the terminal, and they were escorted out. They were told to get behind a potted plant the second time, and then they were escorted here. That little girl from Colombia is absolutely terrified. Her mother in tears. They are just arriving from Colombia for their vacation. I'm here with the swim team from Omaha, Nebraska. They are on the phone with their parents right now, all calling their parents to say that they are okay. But again, the search continues. Police are walking through the airport with guns drawn. Paramedics have helmets on and bulletproof vests, and they are escorting people from different terminals to this area, staging area between Terminal 2 and Terminal 3, where they are searching people. At this point, they have found nothing. But that is what is going on here as you await for the press conference.
Okay, Jeff, thanks a lot. And we certainly don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We know that a news conference is going to be taking place here very shortly. But there is some information posted on the Facebook page of Chip LaMarca, the Commissioner for District 4, Broward County. And he posted on his timeline here that the shooter was a passenger on a Canadian flight with a checked gun. He claimed his bag and took the gun from baggage and went into the bathroom to load it. came out shooting people in baggage claim. There were 13 people shot, 5 dead as we know, 8 transported to Broward Health Medical Center where Leanne Motorhome was reporting. So that is some information, at least from one elected official who may have gotten some inside information from the officers and investigators who are on scene, Lori.
It would just be absolutely shocking to hear that. And now, as you see on the right side of your screen, I mean, people just sitting in place. They can't even shelter in place right there. They are just stuck out on this hot tarmac. Our Sanella Sabovic is right there awaiting the press conference in just minutes. Let's check in now. Sanella?
Lori and Calvin, a multi-agency investigation over here. We have just seen the FBI go into Terminal 2. We're in between Terminals 1 and 2 right now. The Fort Lauderdale Police Department, U.S. Customs Border Patrol. Again, the FBI going in and out of Terminal 2. It appears that they are checking it to make sure to give it the all clear. But right now, a lot of activity here right in front of Terminal 2. We see off in the distance by the Air Canada Delta. Outside of the terminal, there are a lot of passengers there not being allowed to go inside. A lot of police personnel driving through. Again, the FBI examining Terminal 2 right now at the moment. We just heard from the FBI and the Broward Sheriff's Office moments ago that they're going to be briefing us in a matter of minutes to discuss what is going on here. But a few minutes ago, they were focusing at the garage directly across from Terminal 2. The FBI with guns drawn there, going through all the floors, taking passengers out of there, trying to clear that parking lot. There were unconfirmed reports of a second shooter there. We did speak to someone that was stuck here in front of the terminal. As he was driving by, he said he heard about 3 or 4 pops. So again, we are still waiting to see if there is a second shooting situation here. We will be briefed by the FBI and Broward Sheriff's Office. But at the moment, right now, outside of Terminal 2, a lot of activity. Multi-agency investigation. We see Plantation Fire Rescue. We've seen Pembroke Pines, Fort Lauderdale. The FBI going in and out of Terminal 2. And once we get any more details, you know that we will certainly bring it to you. But again, they're focusing right now on Terminal 2.
Okay, Sanella, and free-flowing information coming in to us as well. We're hearing that 2 people have been detained on the east side of the airport by Fort Lauderdale police, or possibly BSO, and requesting that BSO go and ID those 2 people who have been detained and arrested on the east side of the airport. We have no idea what it's related to, but again, it could be in relation to what is happening out there, could not be related to that, but 2 people detained on the east side of the airport, Lori.
And apparently CNN is releasing a picture. Our partners there at CNN are releasing the first picture from an eyewitness of what happened and of the actual shooter. As soon as we are able to turn that around to you, we will get that to you. So far, we have also seen pictures of people laying on the ground bleeding, and it's just been so hard to see. But these images are coming out now. So many people witnessing this horror. 5 people shot dead, 8 others injured. Most of them are at Broward Health Medical Center, where we have our Leanne Motorhome to bring us any updates on their condition. And this information is coming in quickly. And
we heard again from Chip Lamarca, the elected official, Broward County Commissioner, who put on his Facebook page that the shooter was a passenger on a Canadian flight with a checked gun. He claimed his bag and took the gun from baggage and went into the bathroom to load it. So if we were to stop there, how did he get the gun onto the plane? How did he get the gun into the airport, for that matter? But how did he get the gun onto the plane? But apparently he went into the bathroom to load it, came out shooting people in baggage claim. There were 13 people shot, as we know, 5 dead, 8 transported to the hospital.
Let's go right to Local 10 News anchor Eric Yetzi, who is at the airport now. Eric, where are you and what can you tell us?
Michael, I am at the corner of Griffin Road and US 1, and that is where, as you can see, there's a significant police presence. They have blocked off what you were looking at US 1 northbound, right near where you would enter 595 and 95, the option to go to Port Everglades. And what they're doing, you can see off in the distance, there are construction workers who are walking through that tunnel, through that overpass, and they're being stopped and searched. We've talked to several construction workers who said they're being let through, but not until they are stopped and searched. It's a tough angle here. You can't quite see it, but if you could look through and into and underneath that overpass, you would see these construction workers stopped with their hands in the air, and they're being questioned, they are being searched, they're being asked what they know. And so if we could pan just a little bit to the right here, and you can see the other side of the road, there's a massive presence here. This is Hollywood police we have seen here. Actually just saw a Weston fire rescue ambulance come passing by. So we've talked about the multi-agency response, and this area has been very active, diverting all traffic. No one is getting through, certainly not on the roads here. It looks like there are a couple of vehicles passing now.
And
but
Port
you can hear
Everglades
again,
is close to all traffic.
and a new set of police cars is going to enter the screen here. We've seen scenes like this throughout the past 40 minutes or so. We have seen armored vehicles. We have seen police with heavy artillery out. The search very much active here at this location. Again, US 1 and Griffin Road.
Eric,
that's the very latest. We'll keep an eye on what is happening.
Yeah, Eric, I wanted to ask you, you're seeing a lot of construction workers in their bright orange outfits, but are you seeing any passengers, what look like just regular people trying to walk out of the airport?
No, not yet. We have not seen anybody who has identified themselves to us as a passenger. The only people we have seen are construction workers, and we have seen a couple of airport workers who said that they heard some of the activity surrounding this, the reports of a second shooter here at the airport. So they have told us they heard some of those things. We're going to work on getting some of those interviews turned around for you, and we'll have them for you just a few minutes away.
It is a traffic nightmare. Eric, thank you. And as Calvin started to mention there, do know that Port Everglades is shut down, so that adds to the traffic. You can leave Port Everglades, but no cars or trucks are being allowed in at this time. So you know they are just backed up there along 595.
And Michael, based on what we're seeing, I guess the general belief among law enforcement out there is the fact that there's possibly a second shooter based on their behavior.
I think that they are just doing their due diligence in the hope or belief that there may be an accomplice. There may be somebody who was with Esteban Santiago, the man who was in custody, who allegedly shot and killed 5 people and wounded 8 others. I think this is probably what, in fact, law enforcement should be doing. But wow, what a huge disruption to life, to the normal operation of anybody who is in the vicinity of Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. And look at this. Out here on the tarmac, now you still have dozens and dozens of passengers. They appear to be moving. I don't know if they're going into the terminal building. The second level of the building, the main level departure level, is open, and they may be going in, but they're certainly not going to be able to leave for a while.
And at this point, we know the FBI presser is just about to begin, so let's check in on that and see if we can get some information from the authorities right there where we have Sinella Sabovic listening in, and there is Sheriff Scott Israel.
By baggage. The active shooter shot at least 13 people. 8 people, as I know right now, are in area hospitals being treated. I don't know the degree of their injuries. 5 people have succumbed to their wounds and tragically are dead. We are not releasing any information on any of the victims until we identify them, which is going to take some time, and we are able to respectfully notify the next of kin first. The investigation continues. We have area SWAT teams and the Broward Sheriff's Office SWAT team clearing the entire airport. There'll be no movement in or about the airport until our SWAT teams give me real-time information that it's safe. Right now we're taking, this scene is considered fluid and active. We won't be, well, we have, one of the more critical pieces of information is we have the shooter in custody. He's unharmed. No law enforcement fired any shots. The subject is being interviewed by a team of FBI agents and Broward Sheriff's Office homicide detectives. There's been incredible cohesiveness and cooperation between the Broward Sheriff's Office, the FBI, FDLE, and all the local law enforcement entities. We'll answer your questions at the end. We'll answer your questions at the end. At this point, I'm going to put the director of the airport on to tell you about what's going on at the airport. Then you'll be hearing from the SAC, Mr. Piro. Then I'll come back to answer questions.
Thank you, Sheriff. As the Sheriff said, my name is Mark Gale. I'm the airport director here at the Fort Lauderdale International Airport. When the incident occurred, we responded. Many of you know that we've suspended operations at the airport for the time being. We're working together with all the law enforcement to address all the needs and concerns of the passengers that are inside the building and on airplanes right now. They are all sheltered in place. We're not sure exactly when the airport will reopen for operations. We're going to work together with all the law enforcement that's here, our airlines, and all the other agencies before we actually move to reopen up the airport. But in the meantime, as the sheriff has indicated, we're just going to go step by step, methodically through the building before we take any steps to reopen operations. We'll keep everybody informed as best we can through social media and our airport website as to when that may occur. And we'll also be setting up a hotline for families or friends that may be looking for folks that they haven't been able to reach in contact with, and we'll also publish that in the relatively near future, again on our hop site and out through the website and through social media. That's all I have for now.
Good afternoon. My name is George Pirlo. I'm the special agent in charge of the FBI's Miami field office. As the sheriff mentioned, the FBI is working very closely with the Broward Sheriff's Office, supporting their ongoing efforts here at the airport. We're working jointly, doing all of the witness interviews as well as the suspect interview. The investigation is very early. We have a lot of preliminary information that we are going through, but at this point our role is to actively support the Broward Sheriff's Office until we make a determination on the nature and the motive of this incident. Thank you.
We've heard about a shooting in Terminal 1. What can you tell us about that? Just refer to the camera.
At this time, there's been no shooting in any place else but at the downstairs of Terminal 2. There's no confirmation of any shooting. As a matter of fact, at this point as I speak, the only gunshots fired at any time during this horrific incident have been downstairs in Terminal 2.
What happened at Terminal 1? That everyone was evacuated. People said they heard shots upstairs.
It seems like somebody got injured evacuating, nothing to do with any type of gunshot or anything like that.
Light truck operator heard shots after the initial lone shooter at the other terminal. He heard shots directly behind him inside the parking lot.
We've had no confirmation of that. We have law enforcement personnel, both federal, state, and local throughout the airport. No law enforcement this time has confirmed that there's been any gunshots other than was fired in Terminal 2.
We also saw someone being arrested. Is there another person possibly involved?
Not in the shooting aspect of it. We're reviewing tapes. If someone was arrested, it might be for a plethora of things. But to my knowledge, no one was taken into custody. People could have been secured in handcuffs until we found out who they were, what they were, and how they were related or not related to this scenario. So I don't know if they were physically arrested or not, but there's been no happened around the baggage area.
Any information as to why?
One suspect only in custody. We're not releasing any information on that suspect. Yes, sir.
Are you able to say what kind of weapon was used in the shooting in Terminal 2?
No.
Was it an automatic? Was it a semi-automatic?
We're not going to comment.
Was there struggle
when we apprehended him, the subject was arrested without incident.
Any motive?
I don't know.
Does it appear that the shooter was waiting for somebody to arrive and go to baggage and then ambush them?
We're at the very beginning of the investigative stages. That's what this is all about. That's why at this point the lead on the investigation is with the Broward Sheriff's Office. If we do uncover at some time that this was related to any type of terrorist or terrorist activities, then the FBI will have complete incident command of this, and we'll be assisting the FBI as we move forward with the investigation. I want to say, this is not the time for anybody to call 911 on this incident. We're all over here. If you have a real emergency, of course, but if it has involved you, please keep the 911 lines open. And if you need information, you can follow us on Twitter at Sheriff.
Have you been able to identify the vehicle?
At Broward Sheriff. Twitter at Broward Sheriff.
Sir, have you been able to identify any vehicle at the airport that might belong to the shooter?
Not at this time, not to my knowledge.
So at this point, there doesn't appear to be a terrorism indication at all, or too early?
It's too early to say either way on that. That's what's going on right now.
The baggage area where they were coming from, where were those people coming from? Where were they? Do you know? What flight were they?
I do know what flight, but we're not releasing any information until we can positively identify the victim.
Sheriff Scott Israel calling this a fluid and active at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. If we get that signal right back, we'll get it to you. But we learned a lot of information from him, namely that they do not believe there is a second shooter. Let's listen in.
Yes, there's no at this point there's no second active shooter. There are no victims suffering for any gunshot wounds. We heard that information as well. It's not confirmed, and right now we're dealing with this incident right here.
Can you tell us what was going on in the parking garages that had agents, guns drawn, going, looking for somebody?
I'm sure they were looking for, clearing parking lots. We have a variety of SWAT teams out and assets out clearing the entire airport to make sure it's safe. So just doing their job, working very hard and diligently.
Mr. Daly? It's Friday afternoon. About how busy was the airport? Is this the busiest it is during the week, given that it's Friday afternoon, sort of the height of tourist season?
The airport's always very busy. We're one of the fastest growing airports in the country. Again, the terminals are very full right now. Our passengers are sheltered in place. We'll be working with law enforcement to actually get them released systematically, as the sheriff has indicated.
And that is the airport director, Mark Gale, along with the sheriff.
Do you have any idea how many people are secured either across the runways, in the terminal, on the plane? Any estimate as to that number?
Right now, we actually have everybody in either at the terminals, or we've had some airplanes that have landed, that we still have airplanes with people on board that have landed that have not been brought into the terminal building. It's possible that those airplanes may actually depart and not actually come into the terminal building. But on any given day, we typically handle between 80 and 100,000 passengers coming through the facility.
So people who are on planes now may not be able to get off? Is that
That's a possibility that we're working with the airlines that some decisions may be made. It hasn't been confirmed yet that they may actually depart for other cities. We're going to go through the terminals, again, very slowly and methodically to make sure everything is clear before we make any decisions about releasing additional passengers into the building on top of those that are already still in the facility.
How many were in that Terminal 2 when you initially?
I don't have that information.
Do you know how many were in the baggage area?
I don't have that information. Typically in a baggage claim, there could be hundreds of people at any one time, but I don't know what the number was at that particular moment in time now.
And how many planes have landed and not allowed to just...
I don't have the number of those that are on the ground right now.
Where can passengers get that information? Are you going to put that on your website?
We're going to put information out through on our website and also on Twitter, at FLL Flyer.
Sheriff Israel, can you give us a timeline? When, to your knowledge, did the shooting begin? How long was the shooter at large? Where was he inside the terminal? How extensive was the shooting?
And where is he being interrogated?
As I said before, it happened just before 1 o'clock. We're not going to give out any specific information about the logistics.
And as I said before, what time was he apprehended?
Shortly thereafter, almost immediately after the shooting. He was apprehended by a Broward Sheriff's deputy, and he was taken into custody without incident.
Sheriff, did the gunman check the weapon into his luggage on an Air Canada flight and then fly here, land, take the weapon out, go to the bathroom and load it?
As I said before, that's all part of an ongoing investigation.
So we also heard that he gunned down after the shooting and laid on the floor. Can you talk about?
I haven't gotten that far. All I know is the gunman is in custody. He's being interviewed by a team of FBI agents and Broward Sheriff's deputies. And at the time, once we establish motive and the investigation continues and we find out what that motive is, then myself and Mr. Pirro, the director SAC of the FBI, will make a decision as to who takes the lead on the continuing investigation.
Sheriff, did any of your deputies fire their weapons at this parking garage? Is that possibly what we heard? What did we hear?
I don't know what you heard, but there's no confirmation of any type of gunshot anywhere but at the time of this horrific incident.
Sheriff, can you say if the gunman was a airline passenger, or did he come in at the arrivals area?
I believe I know that information, but it's not something we're going to release at this time.
Can you say where he's being interrogated?
Where he is right now? I'm not sure where he's
Sheriff Israel, if there was no other viable threat, a second threat, why would the airport be closed after the first person was arrested and being interrogated? Why shut down the airport?
As I said, we can't say there's no viable threat. We have to clear the airport. It's just a common sense approach. My concern right now, not only with the families of those who are lost, but my concern is with the citizens of Broward County. And until myself or the director of the SAC of the FBI, until we believe that this airport is a safe place and people can move about, it won't be open.
Last question.
Excuse
me, Amy?
How many deputies at the airport at the time of the shooting?
I'm not sure. Thank you very much. Please follow us at Broward Sheriff on Twitter.
Can you just tell what caused the evacuation of Terminal 1? That, again, it's what...
I'm not sure.
Broward Sheriff Scott Israel giving a news conference along with the airport director at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport, Mark Gale. That was a briefing that we have been waiting on just to get some details firmed up, and we can certainly, walk away with a few takeaways here. I think the biggest question that he possibly answered, but is still sort of out there, is whether or not this was an act of terror. And he said it is uncertain whether the airport shooting there was an act of terror. And what I found shocking, too, is he said when the gunman was arrested, Esteban Santiago, the 26-year-old former military member who was from New Jersey, he said he was arrested without incident.
And he said he was arrested almost instantly after the incident, immediately was his word, without any kind of resistance, apparently.
And they didn't even need to shoot bullets at him. Yeah. I mean, he was, peacefully taken down, if you will. I mean, basically without incident.
Without violence or without any resistance, anyway. And he is being questioned, as the sheriff said, by both BSO homicide detectives and the FBI. And Calvin, you're right. Until the sheriff said it's determined what the motive is. If it was an act of terrorism, then the FBI takes the lead. If it is a crime, a simple crime, then BSO is the lead agency.
And the sheriff did not want to get into any details about the actual weapon or what flight this shooter was on, but we know from the AP wires that this Esteban Santiago was a passenger on a Canadian flight. He had checked his gun in his luggage. When he got his luggage, he loaded that gun in the bathroom and then came out into the baggage area shooting.
And I also think a good takeaway, too, from this is that although we heard from our Jeff Weinseer, Todd Toggin, they were both involved in situations where police were certainly looking at them and made everyone a possible suspect, but they said no other shots were fired except for the gunman himself, Santiago, and they said no second shooter was involved in this.
Right. This was a lone gunman, according to the sheriff and to the FBI special agent in charge, and to an extent, I think that's good news. But what is his motive? The sheriff was asked. His answer was, quote, "I don't know."
And as you look live there, you see the entrance and exit to Fort Lauderdale Airport heading out onto 595 is just completely jammed, an area to avoid in any way if you can deny it. Let's get right to Jeff Weinseer. Jeff, are you still in between terminals 2 and 3?
We are still in between terminals 2 and 3 with everybody from TSA agents to passengers to paramedics. But from where I am standing, I am 50 yards away from that crime scene, the baggage claim area, Terminal 2. And from what I can see from my vantage point is that they are processing that scene right now, specifically the FBI. Several people with shirts that say FBI on the back are walking in and out of that terminal. I think Calvin mentioned something earlier about possibly coming out of the bathroom and firing. That would be consistent, if you're familiar with this airport, of where this incident took place. If you're familiar with Terminal 2, the bathrooms are on the east and west side of Terminal 2, and there are also doors that you can get out of where people would pick you up curbside. This incident seemed to have happened on the west side of Terminal 2. That would be the far door of Terminal 2, where the bathrooms would be. The bathrooms are on the east and west side, so if he did come out, that is where most of the witnesses, and we did speak to several witnesses who were pop in that area. Everybody started running out. Several people, one person was on the ground by that door. One of the wounded, that's where they were treating most of the people. Again, that would be the far west side of Terminal 2, ground floor. And what's interesting right now is law enforcement has several different functions here. Obviously, they're searching people. They're looking for another shooter, which obviously the sheriff has confirmed that, but for at least 45 minutes to an hour, we didn't know that. And you came to us live when we were in the middle of a whole scenario. Get down on the ground, people being searched. They thought there was a second active shooter, and law enforcement is also processing that original scene right now. Again, with 50 yards from I can see. So it is going to be a very, very long next 48 hours here, probably at the airport. You have stranded passengers. I'm standing next to TSA agents here as well. Everybody who was in certain parts of the airport, this is one of the several areas, staging areas. Paramedics still have their headgear on, but as far as the sheriff said, a second shooter, everybody is, I guess you could say, at ease now, if that is the right word to use. There were some tense moments when we thought there was that second incident. Again, inside we see, unfortunately, trails of blood from where we are standing, a very bloody scene. Presumably there are bodies inside. We cannot see that from the entrance of the doorway, but they are definitely processing that scene right now as we speak. In Terminal 2, the baggage area, several of the witnesses that we talked to, some people were actually working. Some people were there cleaning in the baggage claim area, getting their baggage. They all described the same thing. Pop, 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 pop. At least 4 to 5. People screaming, people running out, chaotic scene, the wounded being attended to by other passengers and airport staff. 4 paramedics arrived on our way over here. We were one of the first news crews that was outside of the garage area in between, and we were able to see them probably work on that last person transported to the hospital. Several people were being treated for they were in shock, to be honest with you. One woman who was from France that we interviewed couldn't speak English, but she put her hands up and said, pop, 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 and then she started hysterically crying to the point where she had to be taken by paramedics and given oxygen. So a very, very chaotic scene here at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. Right now, people are just wondering how to get. People left their luggage in terminals by the curbside.
Okay. And Jeff, if we can just interrupt you very briefly here, we're going to go to someone, your colleague here, Eric Yutzi, who is speaking with an official here.
There was shooting below in baggage claim, and what I witnessed was utter chaos breaking out within seconds of this going on. People tripping, falling over bags, elderly people on the floor, people tumbling down the stairway. It just went from normal to chaos in seconds.
What did the shooter look like?
All I saw was a dude, and I can only see from about here up. He had dark hair, and I kind of hate to admit that he ran right by me, but I didn't take it all in. It was happening so fast. I consider myself a person who's sort of aware, but I just was having a hard time processing it. And he went speeding by me down the escalator, going like 8-10 steps at a time, and then here come the cavalry chasing him. So all I could see was dark hair, dark complected. I wish I had a better view of what's going on, but then again, I wish I wasn't even here.
What kind of gun did he have?
Handgun from the guy I saw downstairs. I don't know. I didn't see that shooter.
So these are the second group of shootings.
Second group in Terminal 1, upstairs and downstairs.
So you were upstairs in the check-in area?
Yeah, exactly. Standing right by the door, trying to hook up with my driver, Luis, who, thanks to me, Luis is like, man, hey, thanks, you brought me to a shooting. But I was trying to hook up with him, and we were trying to communicate, but communicating was very difficult due to the what was going on.
Are you a pilot?
I'm a pilot.
What do you fly with?
I fly for a company that's not involved with this airport. It's a private charter company. I was just a passenger.
Okay. Can you tell me your name?
Scott is my first name. My last name is Streng, S-T-R-E-N-G.
And where are you from?
I'm from Columbus, Ohio.
So can you describe it more? I mean...
Okay, that was our Eric Yutzi interviewing a pilot there. Scott String is his name, and apparently he was what appeared to be on Terminal 1 upstairs in the check-in area, had just been dropped off, and he said a man with black hair or dark hair with a handgun ran right by him, which could have been the suspect, Esteban Santiago, based on the picture that we saw, but we're not quite sure. But apparently could not take it in, as you can imagine. He was completely shocked by what was happening.
Probably thought it was someone rushing to get rushing to get to a flight.
Right, and he said he went pounding down the escalator with deputies right behind him, and he said then they just caught the dude, and without any resistance, But as he said, the scene went from normal to chaos.
Utter chaos, yes.
In a second.
And that matches what other witnesses have told. According to the AP, one witness described being there at the baggage claim when suddenly the person right next to him just fell to the ground. And he said suddenly people just started falling. He dropped to the ground with his wife and mother-in-law, and the firing just went on and on. This witness even said that the shooter emptied his weapon and reloaded during a very eerie, quiet, calm in the gunfire, and then suddenly he started firing again, and no one really felt safe until they saw Fort Lauderdale officers literally right over them.
The sheriff would not say what kind of a weapon that Santiago had. If you have a Glock, 9mm Glock, you can get a 17 bullet clip. We don't know, but on the other hand, he killed 5 people and wounded 8. And then maybe he did reload. We don't know. We will find out many of these things, but it's just a really shocking story here from Fort Lauderdale International, and the chaos there and the inconvenience and the tragedy is just going to go on here for a long time.
And speaking of that, Mark Yell, the airport director, said that all operations have been suspended at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. The planes and passengers are sheltered in place. And then he went on to say, we're not sure when it will reopen. The last time this happened was Hurricane Matthew, when it was threatening to come ashore here as a Category 5 storm. What I'd like to do now is to go to our Janice Fernandez, because there is a feeling, based on the comment from Chip LaMarca, the Broward County Commissioner, that Esteban Santiago might have been on that Air Canada flight when it landed. And there's some information coming from the airline as well as other information on social media. Janice, take it away.
Yes, Calvin. Really, all you have to do is just go to the Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport's website, where you can see the departures and arrivals. So obviously, we heard during that press conference, they mentioned that this was a Canadian flight that that Esteban was on. And so just by looking at the arrivals, there were 2 flights that arrived right around the time of the shooting. So the first one that arrived was from Montreal, and it was flight 1602. That arrived at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport at 11:05 a.m. And then the other one arrived from Toronto, 1622, that arrived at 12:07 p.m. And you may remember I had mentioned...
Janice, stand by, if you will. We're going to go to our Eric Piazzi once again. He may have another interview for us on what happened earlier today. Eric.
That's exactly why we're stopping.
Hey, Calvin, standing here with a man who's a pilot. So your name is Scott?
Yes, Scott.
The sheriff is telling us that there was no second shooting. They don't have any confirmation of a second shooting. We know about the first one where 5 people have died. You say something different?
Well, we definitely heard percussions and banging, and I'm a shooter myself. I would tend to think that those were shootings, but I saw a guy with his hands up and running with deputies chasing him. Whether it was somebody smoking or whether it was gunpowder, I smelled smoke. So I don't necessarily agree with the sheriff. Maybe he knows more than I do, but from my perception, there was another shooting, people running, proning out, getting out of the way.
Plantation police officers coming down. We are on Perimeter Road, just north of Griffin Road. Right over here is US 1. So again, describe exactly what you saw and exactly where you were.
Well, I was standing right inside the door on Terminal 1 on what would be the departures level, and I was looking down. I could see the escalators and the stairs, and I heard loud percussions, and people started running away, and I could hear females screaming. And at the same time, stuff started happening behind me. Some percussions, some people falling down, people running, people tripping over each other, strollers in the way, and then a dude comes running by me. I'm just standing there with 3 guys behind him, and the guy I was with says that was the guy that was a shooter. Now, I saw him over there with his hands up, and, I was telling the gentleman it would have to be a handgun because he didn't have a rifle. But, in the chaos of all that, as we know when these things happen, there's a lot of misinformation. I may not be recalling it correctly, but definitely some kind of, in my opinion, some kind of combined effort to attack this airport.
You clearly can recall the terror pretty vividly of what you experienced.
Yeah, I consider myself a person who's aware mostly of my surroundings.
You're a pilot.
I'm a pilot, and the utter chaos went from people were on edge to pandemonium in 1 second. That's what I'm going to remember about this. People falling down, the elderlies that had fallen down, and we're trying to scoop them up and get them in wheelchairs and get them out. So, you know, again, in the heat of the moment, sometimes your recollection, your mind is starting to play tricks on you. You get that adrenaline shot. But not fun, not cool. We got to stop this. We got to take this country back.
How long have you been stuck here? Because if you can look down the line, there's still a long line of vehicles coming up and down Perimeter Road, and no one's going anywhere anytime soon. How long have you been stuck out here, sir?
We've been here about an hour. My driver, Luis, the Uber driver, was nice enough, and he was right outside the door when all this went down. And so I was able to get in his car, and poor Luis is sitting down there. We've been here about an hour.
Okay, so again, the delays continue here. Roads still shut down. Thank you, sir. Safe travels wherever you are going. That's the very latest from here along Perimeter Road. We'll keep looking for people and get the very latest on what they say they saw and heard inside the airport.
And right now, Eric, thank you. We do want to mention that ABC's Brian Ross is reporting that the shooter actually traveled from Anchorage, Alaska to Minneapolis, then to Fort Lauderdale with his legally checked gun, which he then picked up from the baggage claim, took it into the bathroom. We are hearing loaded it there. These are from reports from both the AP and now ABC's Brian Ross. And then he came out into the baggage claim shooting. But it looks like we were hearing about some Canadian flights, but it might have been Canada Air, and that might have been the confusion. Brian Ross, the investigator from ABC News, confirming that he traveled from Anchorage, Alaska to Minneapolis, then here to Fort Lauderdale, where he caused all this chaos.
And for the moment, let's go back to our Janice Fernandez, who was making her point about a statement from the airline as well as other statements on social media. Go ahead, Janice.
Well, right, like you mentioned, obviously we are working to get these reports confirmed to figure out exactly which flight he was on, where it originated from. All I can say is just based on from the arrivals, when you look at the Fort Lauderdale airport, is that the two arrivals from Canada, the Toronto flight was 1622, from Montreal was 1602. Now, this is just based on Air Canada. I'm searching through the website right now. I'm having trouble finding another origin or another Air Canada flight that he may have been on. But we also received a statement from Air Canada, the airline, saying that all the customers as well as employees for Air Canada were accounted for on those flights and all were safe. So, of course, this is all preliminary information, and we, of course, are working to confirm all of that. And then that might take a bit before we get more information. I do want to quickly mention, because we're looking right now, it's almost 4 o'clock. We know a lot of you are going to start heading home, and there is a traffic situation we do want to talk about, because we've been talking about those delays in and around the airport, and those delays really are going to continue well into the evening. So I just want to quickly let our viewers know that the off-ramp is closed in Fort Lauderdale, and this is on 595 eastbound at the airport. And from what our traffic systems are showing is that those delays, we're seeing stop traffic backed up to I-95. There are also delays along US 1 northbound and southbound as you are approaching the airport. And also important to note that there are also going to be some delays for Tri-Rail, and this is due to some police activity. All rail traffic is stopped between Sheridan and the Fort Lauderdale stations. Bus bridges are being dispatched to those areas. Of course, this is a very large scene, a very active scene. We also mentioned Port Everglades. Anyone who may be trying to enter, maybe you have a cruise later on, that traffic is being allowed to leave Port Everglades, but no cars or trucks are being allowed into Port Everglades at this time. So, of course, we want to bring you those traffic updates. We're approaching the 4 o'clock hour. We know a lot of you are going to be hitting the road soon. Areas you want to avoid, take State Road 84 instead. If 595 is part of your commute, stick to I-95 or the Turnpike as well. So, of course, we're going to keep monitoring the situation and, of course, monitoring to see exactly which flight he was on. And, of course, the big question, Calvin Laurie, is how he was able to bring a gun on board and bring it in his bag and on the airplane.
Janice Fernandez, thanks very much. We want to go now to Local 10 News reporter Andrew Perez, who is either at Fort Lauderdale International or nearby. Andrew, where are you and what do you see?
Well, right now I'm at the intersection of Southwest 33rd Court and 2nd Avenue, so I'm right along the 595 overpass. I was actually headed to the hospital to go and check on some of the victims, and all of a sudden I see a giant convoy. I've been seeing law enforcement from Hollywood, from Fort Lauderdale, from Weston, and they were all racing one direction. So naturally, I followed them, and I wanted to see, what was going on. I get over to the 595 overpass here on Southwest 2nd Avenue in Fort Lauderdale, and I start to see all these people running across the street. Law enforcement is telling them to move, to run. And then the people in the warehouses around the area telling them all to go inside. This is around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So a little bit after the first reports of a shooting at the airport happened. And then I started to talk to some of those passengers. They were telling me that they were already watching this on the news. They were already watching this in the airport on the news. And as they're watching this, they start to hear gunfire. They start to hear additional gunfire. Again, the sheriff has said that as far as he knows, it is just one shooter, and that may still be the case. However, they're saying that they were already watching this unfold. They hear the shots, and they run out through emergency exits, everyone toppling over each other, as you can imagine, everyone in total panic. They get out on the tarmac, and there is law enforcement already out there yelling at them to run toward the fence. And so all of a sudden you see all these people running toward 595, running toward the fence to get out to a little bit closer to Fort Lauderdale. I talked to these two women, one of whom is a flight attendant, and she said it was just absolute chaos. They didn't know what was going on. They thought everything was safe at one point. They knew there was a shooting already. And then as I'm talking to this woman, I look up from the ground on the 595 overpass, and there's a man in a white T-shirt. He's got his hands up. Police have their guns pointed at him. They make him turn around. They make him slowly back up. Now, we understand that police have also been doing a lot of stopping anybody they feel is suspicious or feels matches a certain description.
And Andrew, stand by. Andrew, stand by. Certainly, we are going to talk with you in just a few moments.
Right now, at the top of the hour at 4 o'clock, we continue to follow breaking news. Panic at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. So many seen running for safety when someone opened fire inside Terminal 2 baggage claim, killing at least 5 people and injuring 8 others.
And this is video from inside that baggage claim. We've blurred out the most graphic parts of this. People are seen there huddling on the floor, trying to stay safe. In other parts of the video, you can also see people on the floor as well.
And then there are pictures like this posted to social media and video like this of a victim who managed to get out of baggage claim but was seen bleeding on this curb getting attended to.
The shooting prompting an evacuation of Terminal 2 at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. Some people were forced out onto the tarmac to stay safe.
And our crews are live for you at the airport. All operations were shut down. That was a couple of hours ago. There were reports of a possible second shooter, but the FBI says that is not the case. There are no other suspects other than the one lone shooter already in custody.
And here's what we know so far. 5 people have been killed from that shooting. 8 others were injured.
The shooting suspect has been identified as Esteban Santiago, former military. We are now learning he was in the Army National Guard, honorably discharged last year, 2016. He's 26 years old, and the Broward Sheriff's Office says he did not put up a fight when he was arrested.
And the shooting happening in Terminal 2 in the baggage claim area, and officials say that Santiago allegedly took his weapon out of his checked luggage, went to the bathroom to load it, and then went back to baggage claim before opening fire.
All airport operations have been suspended while this investigation is underway. The sheriff calling it fluid and active.
BSO and the FBI looking into reports of a second shooter, but they say no evidence was found of any other attacker or any other shots being fired. So once again, at the top of the hour, everyone, good afternoon. I'm Calvin Hughes.
And I'm Lori Jennings. We come to you with heavy hearts trying to share this crazy afternoon, just a tragic afternoon. None of the victims have been identified as yet until next of kin are notified. Sheriff Scott Israel telling us 5 people have died at least, and 8 others at least are injured.
We have a team of reporters at the airport for you, and we have our Michael Putney standing by as well, who's been on this story from when it first broke this afternoon, just after 1 o'clock. And we also have Janice Fernandez in our newsroom on the breaking news desk. Todd Tongan, Jeff Weinseer, both at the airport. All operations have been suspended. But Michael, let's begin with you and just your perspective from what you've seen so far and from the time that this story broke.
Well, it is a shocking incident. You think about one of the most important public institutions in South Florida, the second largest airport in South Florida. Suddenly, a man gets off a plane, takes a gun out of his checked luggage, loads it up, walks out, and opens fire on innocent people. We have no idea what his motivation was. All we know is that he shot and killed 5 people. He wounded 8 others. Then he ran, and then he was taken down and surrendered to BSO deputies without incident. He is being questioned right now. We do not know what his motivation is, and it may be a long time before we do. It is unclear whether this is simply a terrible criminal act or an act of terrorism.
And we have confirmed through ABC's Brian Ross that the shooter flew from Anchorage, Alaska to Minneapolis and then to Fort Lauderdale, and that he had this gun checked in his bag. And we've printed out the TSA standard on this because it may seem shocking to people that you can actually
legally check a gun.
You can check a
TSA,
gun, but you really can. And according to the rules, you may transport unloaded firearms in a locked, hard-sided container only. You have to declare the firearm and any ammunition to the airline at the check-in counter. Now, that part will be interesting to see if he actually did or if this weapon went unnoticed.
And I think there's always a big question of whether or not people can go to the airport. As we talked about, all flights, all operations have been suspended as of now at the airport. And Janice Fernandez is looking into the traffic situation surrounding the airport because no one is being allowed in, or at least at one point that was the case. Has that changed, Janice?
Alvin, the off-ramp is still closed. This is 595 eastbound as you're approaching the airport. And unfortunately, that's causing a lot of delays. We're seeing delays stretch onto I-95. And we're also told that the ramps are closed for police activity on I-95, both northbound and southbound, as you're approaching 595. And also a heavy police presence on US 1, both northbound and southbound, as you are approaching the airport. We are also seeing delays out of Port Everglades as well. Traffic is being let out of Port Everglades, but unfortunately, for anyone who may be trying to enter Port Everglades, that situation is just not going to happen. They're not letting any cars through. So as you can imagine, this is causing very big traffic backups, areas you'll want to avoid. So just to give you some quick alternates before I send it back to you, State Road 84, your alternate for 595. As far as I-95, stick to the turnpike, maybe US 441 instead.
And Janice, we want to add to all those traffic warnings, the airline warnings. Of course, you have to check with your airline, and nothing is moving at Fort Lauderdale. But American Airlines just confirming to us that all flights have been canceled today. You know this is a major hub for them. At least you can get out of MIA where their hub is. But just know that, unfortunately, all American Airlines flights are canceled for today.
And the Fort Lauderdale International, Hollywood International Airport director at the news conference a few minutes ago said the airport will be closed until it is, quote, deemed safe. And all the passengers, and there appear to be a few thousand of them, I think, at the airport, are, quote, sheltering in place, which means they're not being allowed to leave.
We did get a little good news about 10 minutes ago. They said that BSO was allowing cars to leave the airport now, and that was our first sign of normalcy. But they are being searched thoroughly. The drivers are being checked. A few cars have been allowed to leave the airport, but we have not physically seen that from Sky 10.
Absolutely. And law enforcement taking no chances. Our Andrew Perez has been following that angle for you and has been watching what's been happening at the airport as well. Andrew, we'll send it over to you.
Airports, all the different agencies that are here around the airport trying to keep order. A lot of those passengers that ran out to the tarmac or that were already on the tarmac, they all ran for the fence close to 595, and they were told to run across and take shelter at some of the rental car buildings, some of the warehouse buildings on the outskirts of the airport. I was actually en route to the hospital at around 3 o'clock when all of a sudden I see a giant convoy of law enforcement heading toward the airport. So I followed them, and I saw them trying to get everybody to try to get out of the airport. I was talking to some of the women who were running out. They said that they were told they had to leave their bags behind. They had to just drop it right there and run out. They said it was a little bit chaotic because people didn't know what was going on. But what I thought was interesting was that several people who I was speaking with said that they were already watching this shooting unfold on TV. They were watching the news inside the airport. According to a lot of the passengers that I've spoken to out here on the outskirts of the airport, I'm right off Southwest 33rd Court and Southwest 2nd Avenue, which is right next to the 595 overpass. And they said they were already watching this, trying to figure out what was going on in different parts of the airport when they heard gunshots, and they decided to run to an emergency exit, get outside, and then run toward the fence to seek shelter. Then once they got out here, I arrived and I look up on the 595 overpass. I see one man who, in a white shirt, Police stopped him. They had their guns pointed at him. He had his hands up on the overpass outside of his car, and they told him to turn around. They told him to start walking backwards. It was a very, very meticulous process. It took a while to get that man. They cuffed him, and presumably they're questioning him now. Now, we do understand that police have also been going around the airport stopping people who fit a certain description, stopping people who are acting suspiciously because, again, like the sheriff said, it's a very fluid situation. They're trying to get a hold of it. But that's the situation right now. A lot of the people are waiting. They don't have their phones. Some of them don't have their luggage. They're waiting on the outskirts of the airport in some of these warehouses to see where they go from here. A lot of them were supposed to catch flights, and right now it's just a wait-and-see situation while police continue to secure this area.
Okay, and talk about this being a wait-and-see situation. Lori just mentioned that American Airlines is shutting down its service there at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport, and just releasing a statement here saying that 2 American flights that were in the air destined for FLL have landed safely and are being held away from the terminal. 2 other flights have diverted to other nearby airports. All American flights into FLL have been canceled for today.
And it is just so frustrating to think of all the people trapped on all these flights. My own husband is on a flight, sitting right there on a Southwest flight. He told me, I mean, they've just gotten different words from the flight attendants throughout this afternoon. At one point, they were told about the second possible shooter, and that panicked everyone on the plane. But we know now from the sheriff there was not a second incident. But at this point, they were doing a land service to the plane, and hopefully crews are out there servicing a lot of those planes now. They're emptying the bathroom tanks, trying to get water to these people. Wow. But it is a miserable situation, and we're all getting texts from friends who are just sitting on airplanes there with hungry children, and it is not a good situation. These might, Michael, be our first actual passengers who are walking out of the airport.
It is hard to know, but in fact, I believe that is the underpass on US 1 over the new runway above it. And I believe that is Eric Yetzi, who is at that scene.
He's heading toward Griffin Road.
Yeah, yes, and Eric, if you can hear us, tell us about what's going on. As Lori says, we see these people, this couple being searched, and they're walking. What is going on there?
Well, you're exactly right on the location, Michael. This is US 1. That overpass. The runway is above. And so what you are seeing is this couple being questioned by police. This is the second checkpoint that anyone who comes through that overpass is going through. You may have seen the live pictures, that gentleman in the green shirt walking with his hands up and then being asked to turn around and walk backwards as they took off his backpack and searched that. So there's a line of 2 police SUVs, Hallandale Beach Police and Hollywood Police there. Many of them have long rifles out, and as people approach, they're asked to walk slowly with their hands in the air. They are searched and checked initially there, and as they pass through, they are met by this second group right here, and that is where they are asked questions, presumably about what they saw, where they're going, where they're coming from. And so this may be the first set of passengers we have really seen. We have seen several airport workers come through. We have seen construction workers come through. And in the background here comes one of those heavy armored SWAT vehicles that is passing through right now. And so this scene is still cleared out. We have seen the occasional vehicle come passing through. And when vehicles come passing through, they go through a similar double screening. They are stopped there, and then they are stopped again right here by this second checkpoint. And that's where people are asked to step out. The vehicle is searched. So a very active search scene. Again, we are at US 1 and Griffin Road, and Perimeter Road, by the way, is still shut down. So we're going to talk to these individuals here. Here they come. We're going to talk to them in just a moment. We'll get their story and bring it to you just a few minutes away.
All right, Eric, thank you. We'll check back. We do want to share some other information for you. According to the Army Criminal Investigation Division, or what's called the CID for the Army, this shooter, Esteban Santiago, was honorably discharged from the Army National Guard in 2016. So let's just assume for a moment that was the very end, maybe December of 2016. So he still has that military ID that we know he was carrying. He was a combat engineer for the Army National Guard. So if he had just been discharged, possibly still had some form of ID, and he declared his unloaded firearm to the TSA and had the ammunition, also there in the baggage that he checked, that is completely legal in our airline system.
And I think the best information in terms of a description of what may have happened earlier today with the alleged gunman there, Mr. Santiago, is that the shooter was a passenger on a Canadian flight. This coming from Chip La Marca, the Broward County Broward County Commissioner for District 4. He says he had a gun on had a checked gun, is what he said. He claimed his bag and took the bag from baggage claim and went into the bathroom to load it, came out shooting people in baggage claim. And we heard from BSO Sheriff Scott Israel that 13 people were shot, 5 dead, 8 transported to Broward Health Medical Center. And Sanella was right there when that news conference was going on, our Sanella Sabovic. Let's go back to her now and get the latest information from her. Sanella.
Calvin, at that news conference, Broward Sheriff Scott Israel said that it's a fluid and active situation. He did mention that SWAT teams are securing the entire airport. We did see some coming in and out of Terminal 2. I did get a chance to speak to an officer from Customs and Border Patrol. He told me that they were sweeping Terminals 1, 2, 3, and 4. I believe 1 has been declared safe, but again, movement coming out of Terminal 2 right now. We are in between Terminals 1 and 2, and I'm standing with a passenger who came after the initial shooting. Sir, tell us what airport officials told you after that first shooting happened.
Well, they said it was fine. Everything was safe. We were in Terminal 1, a United terminal, checked our bags, and we were standing around. Our flight's not until 7 o'clock. And then we heard 4 shots inside that terminal. Bang, 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 bang. People started running for their lives. I got separated from my wife and my daughters. They were hiding right here. My son took off the other way. I was over here behind a taxi. A woman with her babies and a stroller were hiding right there too. I went back into Terminal 1 to look for them. It was vacant. There's not a soul, just suitcases and shoes. Came back out, found them, and then we moved down this way. But people were running every way you could.
Now, we do want to make it clear that Sheriff Scott Israel said that there was no second shooting that took place here. They were sweeping the garage area. But when you thought there was a second shooting situation, what were you being told?
Nothing. Nobody told us anything. We ran. We heard. I've heard shots before. I'm from Chicago, so it was like bam, 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 and everybody ran. Not a few people. Everybody ran out of that terminal in force and ran for their lives. So obviously the sheriff knows more about this than I do. So, but this is where it is. United Terminal, right there. That's where the upper level baggage. In fact, that's where our suitcases are. They're right there. So whatever terminal that is, which I think is Terminal 1, that's where I heard the shots.
Terminal 1, and your bags are still there. You're not allowed the
yeah,
airport.
I haven't tried. I've been trying to get back in and get them. They're right there in the middle of the terminal because we couldn't even check them because our flight's not till 7.
Thank you, sir, for speaking to us again. Greg Meyer with Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport did tell us that the airport is closed until further notice. No flights are coming in. None are leaving here until the airport is declared safe. Broward Sheriff Scott Israel did mention that they are currently checking all the terminals right now, that SWAT teams are scouring the entire area. Again, no movement in and out of the airport. Now, the shooting did take place around 1 o'clock at Terminal 2, which we're standing right next to downstairs in that baggage area. That shooter was taken into custody, he told us, saying that he's unharmed. He's currently being interviewed by FBI agents in Broward BSO. Now, there is, again, we initially thought that there was a second shooting situation when dozens of FBI officers, BSO officers, Fort Lauderdale police officer, they immediately made a dash to that parking garage near a rental car area. But again, they were sweeping the entire garage. They have since cleared it right now, but there was no second shooting situation. No active second shooter. Again, they are going through terminals right now to make sure everything is safe.
One moment, Sanella. We actually are able to be joined right now by Sheriff Scott Israel from Broward Sheriff's Office. Sheriff, thank you for your time on this chaotic day.
Yes, can you hear me? Can you hear me well?
We can. Sheriff, you have Lori Jennings, Calvin Hughes, and Michael Putney right here. Sheriff, we were with you for your entire press conference, but please bring us up to date now. Can you identify any of the victims for us? Can you at least tell us if they're from South Florida?
Here's where we're at. We have 13 people shot in Terminal 2 just before 1 o'clock. 8 of the victims are being treated at area hospitals. I don't know the extent of their injuries. 5 people have succumbed to their wounds and have died based on this horrific attack. We have the shooter in custody. We believe at this time it was one person. We have no reason to believe that it was any type of conspiracy. It's being interviewed by Broward Sheriff's detectives and the FBI together. We're not releasing any information on any of the victims until we could positively identify them and notify the next of kin in a dignified, professional manner. I'm not sure if you have any questions for me.
But Sheriff, are you allowed to tell us, can you tell us yet if any of those victims are from our community?
I really don't know.
We know so many people are panicked at home right now, and especially people who maybe their cell phones just aren't charged enough, and there's just no communication. I know I'm lucky to be able to communicate with my husband, who's stuck on a Southwest flight right now. But for people who can't,
I understand that, and I feel for that anguish and what happens. But we want to positively identify the victims. We want to make sure the next of kin is notified. By our detectives in a discreet, in a compassionate manner, not by TV. So we're going to handle it just this way. We understand that information is needed, for the media. We want to get it out as quick as possible, but we want to make sure we keep Broward County safe. And right now, most of our assets and resources are clearing the airport. We have no reason to believe there are any other threats, but we're leaving no stone unturned, and we're going to clear the entire airport and make sure it's safe for citizens and residents to come back and forth and to reopen the airport.
Sheriff Israel, it's Michael Putney. We're very glad that you're joining us. Sheriff, I know that the BSO, is really staffed up at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood Airport. There is a very large police presence all the time. How long was it between the shooting and the capture of Esteban Santiago? It sounds like it didn't take long.
Yeah, Michael, that's a great question. I was told it was approximately 30 to 40 seconds when our deputies heard the gunshots and they turned. They encountered the suspect. The suspect dropped his weapon. The suspect was taken into custody without incident. There were no shots fired by Broward Sheriff's deputies, and the subject is at an undisclosed place at the airport right now being interviewed by the Broward Sheriff's Office and the FBI.
All right, you may not be able to tell us, but in that moment when he gave up, did he say anything to your deputies?
I don't know.
Yeah.
And is there any feeling, Sheriff Israel, that this might be an act of terror or it could be something else?
At this point, Michael, it should really be anything. Right now, if I had to give a hypothesis, I would say, based on the knowledge I have at this time, it would be a homegrown violent extremist. And I believe that once we sift through some of the information that our detectives are looking at right now, that the FBI will be taking the lead on this investigation, and we'll be assisting the FBI in the investigation and the aftermath.
So, Sheriff, what does that mean? Homegrown violent extremists. What does that mean?
Well, I'm not talking about the suspect in this case because that's what we think he is. We're not sure. But when we use in law enforcement the term homegrown violent extremist, we're putting at a term of a person who we have no reason to believe has been part of Al-Qaeda or been associated with ISIS or any terrorist groups, but they may follow them on media, social media. They may be sympathizers of this group. They may want to be part of the group, and they may want to do something violent to bring attention to the group.
And Sheriff, you described within 30 to 40 seconds this gunman shooting at least 13 people. Can you tell us what kind of weapon he had?
I can't tell you that at this time, Lori. We're not releasing that information.
So you have no reason to believe at this point that that the suspect now in custody was a part of some sort of organized terrorist group such as ISIS?
That's exactly correct. We have no reason at this time. We have no information at this time to be able to substantiate that. Correct, Hal?
But he may have followed them online. You don't know if this was
right.
in any way in relation
and that's really
to
the focus of the investigation right now.
And that's why the FBI is going to be taking over this investigation. So it is possibly terrorism related. Is that fair to say?
Exactly. And we're as we speak, the detectives and the federal agents are interviewing.
So a possible terrorist act from a person who was not in the group ISIS, was not a member of the group ISIS, but may have followed them online and may have been, in fact, influenced by their teachings. Is that fair to say, to report?
That's very fair to say. Very fair to say.
Sheriff Israel, we are very grateful for you joining us. We know it's a chaotic and intense afternoon. If I may, I want to invite you to come Sunday morning and appear on This Week in South Florida and to speak. By that time, 11:30 on Sunday, you will know a lot more. We'd love to have you come in.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for the gracious offer, and it's time for Broward County to pray for the victims once they're identified and their families.
All right.
And Sheriff, we did see some prayers going on in the terminal, and that was a beautiful sight, because that's about all people can do right now is really pray for those victims. And in that vein, Sheriff, we've heard that Terminal 1 is safe. Can you verify that?
Terminal 1 is safe. There was a very minor incident, absolutely not associated. Thanks for bringing that up. Not associated with Terminal 2. It's been handled. It's gone. There have been no other identified threats anywhere on the airport but at Terminal 2. And if you could, when you speak to the public or please let the public know that please keep the 911 lines as open as they can. We're getting hammered. And if they have an emergency somewhere else in Broward County, certainly call 911. But we have the airport on lockdown, and we don't really need any 911 calls about the airport.
And Sheriff Israel, if I could ask you about more of a police and tactical move here, why are we seeing people walk down the street with their hands up? And we have seen this happening for the last hour or two as people have been on the tarmac and have been coming out of the terminals. Why is that necessary?
It's so loud. Can you try that one more time?
Why are we seeing people walking out of the terminals and out of the parking garages with their hands up?
Well, we have the Broward Sheriff SWAT team and various local SWAT teams helping us out, and we're clearing the airport. We don't know, what's a threat and what's not a threat. So I just want to. I'm sure that they want to make things safe for themselves and certainly safe for any, citizens. So I'm sure they're clearing the area in a safe manner. They want to see people's hands. And then once they get people to safety, I'm sure they'll talk to them and allow the people to go their own way tactically. But you certainly, when you clear any area, you want to see people's hands.
And Sheriff, we were just looking live as some people with luggage were just literally walking their way all the way to US 1 around the Griffin Road area, and then they'll be searched there. We're looking at that live picture on the left. We see a family walking out. Is that about the only way you're going to get out of the airport at this point?
Lori, I really don't know. All I can tell you is the airport director, correctly closed the airport. We've closed all the roads, and until I get clarification from our SWAT teams that the airport is safe and the airport is clear, my main concern, obviously I don't want to see people, not being able to get egress to where they need to go. But that's not even on my top 10 list of concerns. Right now, I want to make Broward County safe. And when people can come here and I'm not worried about any active shooters or any safety issues, that's when we'll open the airport.
And we are waiting to hear from you that those other terminals are safe and you can reopen the airport. And Sheriff Israel, as soon as